Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained? Is this not why you are here?
And there's the messed up compression on the music again. Hey guys. Today we're going to do an episode of Ask the Professor. You guys can get your questions in on this one. I feel like I owe it to you, particularly for what's going on in the world today. So get them in, ask them. Super chats are appreciated, but not always necessary. Anything you want to ask? I've already got 3 ready to go. Oh my goodness. Thank you guys. I am your host, Rollo Tomassi. This is the Rational. Thank you very much. Yes, really, I know. Really. Well, today I have 2 dogs in the studio, so we're going to play things kind of fast and loose today. I've got both of them in here today, and I think they're in here because it is very windy here in my secret bunker in deep within the Nevada desert, unknown to anyone. It's very windy today. It cooled off quite a bit. So I figured I wanted to give you guys a chance to ask some questions. One of the things that I kind of struggle with this show is I always feel like I should be answering some questions. I mean, that's really the point of me doing a live stream anyways. So I try to keep things as topical as possible. I try to stay on target as much as possible. And, like I said, the rules for this show, as always, if you have an on-topic super chat or a question or something like that, I'm always happy to answer that. You have to know something about me, I guess. I came from a condition or I guess an environment or a forum type environment way back. It's weird to say that now. Way back in the early to mid 2000s, a lot of the ideas and a lot of the things that I talk about in my books and I talk about on this show actually were all part of discussions. That was, it wasn't just me getting up to the podium and talking about stuff. It was, back and forth and, having access finally to some information that maybe we didn't have before. And I don't think a lot of people really realize that about where we're at right now. I think at this point in history, I think one of the reasons why we are in a situation or in an era of unrest, and that's the nicest way I can possibly put that, is we've never had to deal with this kind of information and this kind of instant access to seeing things on the ground. Now, prior to whenever the advent of the smartphone was, or when we had instant streaming, high 4K streaming video that you could just simply shoot from your cell phone. We're in an unprecedented time right now. And I think it's something that covers a lot of different areas, a lot of different parts of like sort of humanity, right? I mean, I talk about intersectional dynamics, but it could be, you can apply it to pretty much anything. It could be politics, it could be religion, it could be culture, it could be, you name it. And we've never had the kind of access to it that we do now. And that also goes for information. And one of the themes in book 4 is sort of this old order versus new order. And when I talk about the old order, I mean the old order prior to us having a device in our hands that has access to pretty much the world's information. It's greater than any encyclopedia that we could have ever had. Remember the encyclopedias? You want your kids to succeed in college, you go and you buy the Encyclopedia Britannica back in the 80s or whenever that was. And so your kid, you'd have this big library sitting over, and they even made like a little bookcase for you, so you could put each one in, and you get it on. You get a new book in the Encyclopedia Britannica. Now we don't even think about those things. We just see it right there. And it's kind of a blessing and a curse. And I think part of the curse is, we get access to crap information and fake news. But then when we do, we go and we figure it out and we go, well, what else has been faked all the way up to where we're at right now? Really, that's what the red pill is. I talk about it in an intersectional perspective, but it's figuring out what you have been believing and why you've been believing it and who led you to believe that for a very long time. And now you have access to accurate information. That's what the red pill ends up becoming. And I don't mean that from a political stance. I don't mean that from anything specific. What I mean is it's sort of this understanding what you used to know to what you understand and you know right now, according to the best information and accuracy of that information. So I'm going to get to some of these questions. I had I still might do it. I had some emails from guys that really wanted me to answer them on the air. So I will probably end up doing that as well. The first one, gosh, you guys are all here. I was worried you guys weren't going to come up with some really great ones. Todd here says, all these female aspects you speak and write about, are they all subconscious? For example, do women actually say to themselves, yes, I want a man for sex and another separate man to provide for? I think it kind of it's contextual. I think more so now than ever before. Good point. Wow, what a great segue. I think that when I was talking about open hypergamy way back in like 2013, 2014, and I've written several essays about it, but I think the first one was called Open Hypergamy, and I had come to the awareness, let's say, of women embracing what they used to keep secret. So back in certainly before the sexual revolution, back in the 40s and 50s, and prior to that, right? And then even through like the 70s and the 80s, maybe a little into the 90s, it was in women's best interests to keep the worst aspects, let's say, of hypergamy under wraps, to keep it a secret. And I think that prior to the internet age, prior to our new order, prior to us being able to see things in real time, I would say that in some ways, yes, it was something that was subconscious. It was something that wasn't talked about. It's kind of like this, like when you go to work and you are provided a salary and you're given that salary, why is it that it is bad form, let's just say, to divulge how much you're making? Why is it that that's a secret? And it's been a secret for a while. I mean, maybe it's not so much now. I think it's probably a lot less now because, women want to say, well, we only make 77 cents on the dollar. Here it is. But okay, well, first of all, it's nonsense. But second of all, why is it that there was this sort of, I don't know, cone of silence around what it is that you made? And I would argue that the reason for that is because it's certainly a means of control. But there was an aspect to it, and nobody questioned it, right? Like, I'm not going to ask you how much you make, and you're not going to ask me how much I make. I'm not going to look at your W-2s unless I'm the IRS. And so that was kind of like one of these things where you don't ask questions. Another one was, another example would be like, you're not supposed to ask a woman how old she is. Because if you ask, it's like bad form. It used to be. It's not so much anymore, but back in the day, certainly before the new order, before 2000, before the internet, you weren't supposed to ask, or a woman's weight. You weren't supposed to ask a woman's age or a woman's weight. And why? What? Why not? You can ask a guy, how tall are you? Well, about 5'11". How much do you weigh? 163 pounds. You ask a woman that, and that's bad form. That's body shaming. Just asking the question is body shaming. But it's something that maybe not for this generation, but certainly my generation, maybe the one that came after it, it was bad. It was bad form. It was just something that you socially just did not do. And And I always like, I think maybe it's just me, but it's like, sometimes I feel like I'm an alien on this planet, like asking like stupidly obvious questions. Well, why would you do that? Well, of course, because women don't want to divulge, how they look the way they do or how old they actually are, because they're that disadvantage, or used to, at least in the past, it disadvantaged women. Like if a woman says, well, oh, you had a birthday. Yay, you're 21 again, right? Ha, 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 joke, 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 wink, nod, that kind of stuff. But why? Why is like that? To me, seems like we take that for granted. But you ask these questions. Well, the same thing can be applied to hypergamy, because it was something that in the past was something that advantaged women if you kept it secret. It was like concealed estrus. It was actually, I would say that the social dictates that go around like keeping women's hypergamy, right? The women's mating strategy a secret worked in their advantage. Now it doesn't. So prior to this, like women wouldn't, like I was talking about last week about cognitive dissonance and how that a woman can hold two differing conflicting ideas or ideals, whatever you want, beliefs, right? At the same time and resolve cognitive dissonance and never have to really worry about it and laugh about it. In fact, the laughing, the humor, the comedy, the comedy aspect, that's part of it. That's sort of like an acknowledgement of the cognitive dissonance. So like I've said before, when I was talking to my poor girls and one would say, yeah, I've had sex on the first date, but only if he wasn't boyfriend material. So I'd make him wait if he was boyfriend material, but if he's a hot guy in the foam cannon party, then I would get with him. Those are two conflicting things. Well, is that something that they laugh about now? Yeah. But prior to this, prior to like a certain age, and maybe it's a maturity thing, I don't know. But certainly prior to women's, like, I would say apex of empowerment, fempowerment, it was something that was kept secret. You didn't want to talk about those things because it would disadvantage a woman. Because when I talk about how, and you have to remember that a lot of the stuff that I talk about, particularly in preventive medicine, when I talked about the timeline and how women go from like say 15 till they're 50 years old, and the party years are between 18 and about 28 years old. And then from there you get to the epiphany phase. And from there, she's looking for the guy who's the good provider. She's looking for the beta in waiting. After a while, she gets bored of that guy, divorces him for cash and prizes, and moves on to the next guy, becomes a cougar, then starts looking for a guy who's more, she's got kids. It's the standard kind of thing. Well, the reason for that timeline in the first place is because that is the best way that women have been able to affect their mating strategy in, really, well, certainly ever since the sexual revolution. But prior to the sexual revolution, like the greatest generation, like what we were just talking about, like D-Day was yesterday, right? June 6th. And we're talking about, World War II and that generation. I always call them the greatest generation. Women in the greatest generation were just as hypergamous as any other woman. And prior to that, in the 1800s, in the Victorian era, and, keep going, rewinding the clock, keep going back, 1800s, 1700s, 1600s, women were just as hypergamous as they are right now. It was just how they were able to acknowledge that and how they were able to express it, how they were able to manifest it. And we used to have checks and balances. Part of that, of those, like advantaging a woman, their strategy, their social strategy that goes along with the actual innate mating strategy. There has to be a social strategy because there used to be consequences. There used to be consequences and liabilities, let's just say, for a woman who would openly cuckold someone. That was horrible. A horrible thing. Like prior to the sexual revolution, to have a child out of wedlock, and I don't care what culture you were in, it would bring shame upon the family. It was a stigma, it was a social stigma to have a child out of wedlock. Now it's a point of pride. So back then, women were just as hypergamous, and maybe on some level of consciousness, they acknowledged that. They just simply couldn't express it in the same social ways that we see women doing it now. And consequently, we have like 43% of children are born out of wedlock in the United States right now. And then we have abortion. We have all this other stuff that goes along with that. But there's the innate side of the mating strategy, and then there's the social side of it. So is it subconscious? Like like guys have asked me that from like way back in the day, like when I was on So Suave, and we have here, I'm going to give you I didn't put any relevant links for this show because it's just a, get me your question, like as a Q&A. But here's a really good, Todd, this is a really good essay for you. What is the name of it? I have an essay that is, it's about, I'll look it up for you. I'm sorry. I forget the title off the top of my head right now. But it is about intent, purpose and intent. And like you're asking a very common question. I've actually fielded this question since at least the mid 2000s. Are women doing this on purpose? Is it with malice and forethought, or is it something that they're subconsciously doing? And usually when guys throw this question at me, they want to, they want me to say that it's all determinism, or it's all biological determinism. Or if I say that, then suddenly I'm letting women off the hook. Like they can't help it. Like they have, what the hell was the name of it? It's something intent. It's something in intention. I can't remember. I'll look it up. But very common question, because I think a lot of guys think that when it comes to certain aspects of women's nature, I think a lot of guys will, depending on where they are in the sort of sociosexual hierarchy, either want to blame it on something that's deterministic, or they want to blame it, or they want to say that women should be held responsible, like have personal responsibility. Tradcons love personal responsibility. Whereas MGTOWs and guys who are black pill guys who are just sort of given up on the sexual marketplace, it's all about determinism. So I think that's really kind of somewhere in between those two. So yeah, I think a lot of times women don't realize what it is they're doing, but I think more and more they are accepting it, and it's become something that's a little more in your face. And so when I see an example of open hypergamy, like on a commercial or in a song, a pop culture song or something like that, or you'll see, I think right now it's kind of unignorable. So when you've got guys showing you, like, I mean, a lot of YouTube channels are basically built on, oh, isn't this, look at these terrible women, look at what they're doing. And they think that it's with malice and with malice. Are they doing it with malice, or are they doing it with, are they behaving the way that they are because that just simply is their best? That's in their best interest. Well, that's horrible and Machiavellian. Yeah, it is. Do you want to talk about dark triad traits? Women can get away with that right now because we're in a gynocentric social order. They didn't used to be able to do that. Remember when I was talking about the stories about the women who were fraternizing, let's say, with the Nazi soldiers in Holland and in France, and in occupied Holland and Belgium and France. And there were certain sets of women who would get with German officers and have have illegitimate children with those guys. Is that something that they chose to do? Yeah, they would have to. Or is it something that, like, in another age, in another context, would we have said, oh, well, love conquers all? They're from different worlds. Very different worlds, right? He was a Nazi officer and she was this young country girl from France, and love stepped in and they both came together and had children, and it was wonderful, and war brides. And we can fantasize and romanticize that. But is that woman making those decisions based on like a conscious choice, or is she doing it because she's following her heart? Well, that's noble. Right? That's what we say. Express your emotions, ladies and men. How come you can't, express your emotions like women do? Look, love conquered all for the French girl and the Nazi soldier. But no, that's not the way we look at it, especially once the Nazis were defeated. Now that woman has her head shaved, male collaborators or Vichy males were just shot in the head. Women, on the other hand, at least we can do something with you, and we'll abort your baby or whatever. But it's like nationalism or tribalism above hypergamy. Now it is hypergamy and women's emotions. It feels before reels. That dictates all that stuff that we're about to see pretty soon. I keep talking about this is, we're talking about Black Lives Matter and we're talking about all the riots and everything else that's going on. I'm not going to get into that today, but I will say this: the next crisis is going to be women's issues. There's going to be something that tips it off, because the powers that be, the feels before reels, the global the globalized attitude of humanity right now, whatever you want to call it, is not going to allow us in the United States or whatever, is not going to allow us to get to November's elections without everybody coming to the table, without everybody losing their minds and speaking their piece, whether that's with riots or that's with pink hat brigade, pink pussy hat marches, whatever you want to call it. That's going to be the next thing. Or if it's not the next thing, it'll be the one after that. I was thinking probably about August is when it will be. And there'll be something that sets it off. There'll be like another Elliot Rodgers incident or something that will set that off. So there's your very extended answer. Let me move on a little bit here. Man, I got lots of them today. Runt says, how can you convince the women around you, ex, work, or school, etc., who think you are trying to get in their pants, that you are not trying to get in their pants? Well, here's the question, Runt. Are you trying to get in her pants? That's the real question. If you are, and they're thinking you are, you're probably telegraphing something. So what you need to do is you need to look at what your behaviors are. Now, remember this is whenever, like, say if women, like, I get this question sometimes from guys who are like stereotypical or quote unquote nice guys, and nice guys always get really pissed off. And maybe less so now, but certainly back in like the early 2000s, the late 90s to early 2000s in through there. The nice guy thing was sort of it was what I call, it's part of beta game. And it's usually part of the guy who is trying to get in there, right? He's the guy who's got the sniper mentality, where he finds a target, he finds a girl, and he does everything he possibly can to prove his quality to milady. And now, because we are in this new order with new order data, and women are comparing notes just like red pill guys are comparing notes, the nice guy doesn't seem so nice anymore. He seems like the wolf in sheep's clothing. Well, what's going on? How does like, what were you just saying here is like, how do you convince your ex or whoever that you're not trying to get it in their pants? Well, if they think that, it's usually because you're telegraphing something. There's some kind of behavior that you're doing, something that you're saying, whatever. I think women are a lot more sensitive right now to guys' behaviors with respect to beta game, but being nice. Because if you ask women today, what do you think of nice guys? It's not like, well, they're nice and they're sweet and blah, 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 but they're kind of boring. You won't hear that anymore. They'll go, there are no nice guys. They're just guys that are trying to trick you that they're nice, but they're really not. They really want to get in your pants. Like, you'll hear that more often now than you will like, oh, he's sweet, but I don't want to get with him. You won't hear that anymore. Women get mad at nice guys now. And you can, I really, my heart goes out to you too. Because like, if you are like really genuinely nice, and that's just like your person, I would love to be a nice guy. I really, really would. I would love if nice guys got laid, every guy would be nice. I actually put that out as a poll one time, or I think I put it out as a poll, and then I wrote an essay about it. And I think it was like, the essay was called The Nice Guy Jerk Spectrum. And I asked guys, I said, if you could be a nice guy, if being nice would get you laid, would you prefer to be a nice guy? Everybody said, of course they would. They guys don't want to be jerks. That's why they hope that what they're taught blue pill wise will work for them. Just be nice, carry her books home from school, do these nice things for her, show that you're a good friend, have a relationship, and show her what she's really going to get into, and then she'll love you forever. No, she won't. You have to be a jerk. You have to, or you have to at least harness the energy of the jerk. And so most men don't realize this. And I talked about this before when I was talking about how women are more sensitive to things with respect to communication. They have a greater ability or greater sensitivity to sub-communications. We talked about that in game, and understanding game and things like that. Women will look at your shoes, and women love shoes, right? Why wouldn't they be looking at a guy's shoes? They get a lot of inferences from facial, expressions, from vocal intonations. Body language is something women have a much greater facility with. And this is a natural innate proclivity, because in our ancestral past, women had to, because that was a survival adaptation, not only amongst other women, because you want to know why women are more sensitive and communicate differently than men. It's because they were the gatherers. They were the ones who had to form, you want to know why women have greater social networks than guys? It's because that's the way they evolved. They had to. There was an interdependency amongst the women in those tribal gatherings, those tribal groups. So while the men are off killing woolly mammoths and antelope or whatever, the women had to concentrate on nurturing the children, because they were the most vulnerable sex. They're the weaker sex. Okay, yeah, they are. But you can debate that all day long. But they definitely the most vulnerable sex from our ancestral past, they were. And so as a result, they had to band together. That makes sense, right? I mean, there's strengths in numbers, right? You got to, and so there's this interdependency, and then you get what I call the village. Now it's the village, but it's this idea that it takes a village to raise a child. Why? Well, because women had to get together, and they had to have this social connection amongst each other to ensure the survival of their children and their offspring. And the men come home and they bring home the meat, and we all eat, and they're gathering stuff, or they're nurturing the children, or they have their specific gender roles. Men had their gender roles. And so as a result of that, women tend to be more collectivist. They tend to be, that's why when we're talking about socialism and democratic socialism, and it's odd that it's all women who are pretty much talking about democratic socialism in the American political structure, like Senate, Congress, whatever. That is, we would never have had that conversation prior to the sexual revolution. Now it seems like a great idea amongst the women. Yeah, because that seems natural to them. Well, everybody gets even Steven. Egalitarianism and equalism seems to make sense for women. Well, everybody, because we all got to survive. We all have a little bit, right? Or we have just this much resources, and you get some, and you get some, and you get some, and you get some. And for men, it's different. It's, you did these things, so you get a little extra. You get a little more. It's a hierarchical kind of thing. When men are dealing with other men, in cooperatively or otherwise, it's always a hierarchical kind of thing. For women, it's always sort of a collectivist, and I'm not going to say socialist, but it's a collectivist means of we all got to band together. I'm not saying that human beings aren't cooperative and social animals. We are, but amongst men and women, if we're going to peg one or the other, we're going to say men are more hierarchical, dominance hierarchies, competence hierarchies, all that good stuff, and they're rewarded as such. And women tend to be more collectivist. So when you are, I didn't even mean to go that far, but when you are, when you're the nice guy, the reason you're being perceived as nice is because women have that ability to pick up on certain things that most guys aren't aware that they're telegraphing to women. That was one of the first things that pickup artists started to understand back in the good old days, right? In the golden era of PUA. Is guys would analyze other guys' games. You go out in the field and you have a wingman, and the wingman, if he's your PUA coach or whatever, he's watching what you do. And then when you go back, he's going to say, okay, you did this and you did that. And you're telegraphing yourself. That was one of the things they would say. You're telegraphing things, and and it's okay. I think a lot of guys, particularly nice guys want to put everything on the table because they've been taught that that's what they have to do. They've been taught that, well, you got full disclosure, man. I got to qualify myself to her. And so here's my life story on the restaurant table, and it's all, here it is. How come I didn't get a second date? There's nothing that she wants. She doesn't want to figure you out anymore. There's nothing to figure out. So, but a lot of guys will do that, and then they don't understand. They don't understand why they don't get the second date, or they don't get anywhere with a girl. It's because they've telegraphed something. Something in their behavior has said, nice guy. So that's that. That's Runt. Jeez, man, you guys are killing me today. Mr. C says, it seems like most women have the maturity level of an average 12-year-old. It occurred to me maybe they are hardwired this way to relate to children as more as primary caregivers. So let me, this is actually a point that I make in book 4, Mr. C. It's not, I think a lot of guys get off on the idea that like, oh, well, women, they don't mature past 12 years old. They're just like little kids. Well, yes and no. Yes, because men perceive women as children because men have an innate protector instinct over those children and over their women. So when a woman cries, we go, what's wrong? What's wrong? But when a man cries, we go, man, sack up, man. What's wrong with you? You know, well, you know, man up, brother. You know, it's not like, oh, come here, you know, bad feels. No, when we have a visceral reaction, we have a physical reaction when we see a man cry as opposed to when a woman cries. So when like Barack Obama like shed a tear over some, you know, killing or something, people call him a pussy. But when like a woman cries, it's a different dynamic because we have an instinctual side of us that wants to protect that woman because eggs are expensive, sperm is cheap. We want to, what's wrong? If I solve her problems, like the most innate form of game, I think, is the savior schema for most guys. In fact, we see this in like our mythology even. There's like the man who goes and solves the woman's problem by slaying the dragon, you know, or killing the wicked witch or whatever, you know, killing the bad person so that the woman will be saved and then give him her love and sex and children and live happily ever after. That's pretty much the theme or the plot of every fairy tale until Disney came perverted everything. But the theme, the archetype comes from men saying, I'm going to solve your problems. I'm going to protect you. It's my job as the man. I evolved as the dominant physical critter in our species that's going to fight the saber-toothed tiger. And if I kill the tiger and you live and I live, then you owe me sex. Or you should be appreciative of me saving your life and therefore fall in love with me. And I think that's kind of like almost on an innate kind of monkey brain thing for guys. We do the same thing for children. We always want to protect the kids. When a little baby cries, everybody, go get the baby, you know, shut it up. You know, you'd be in church and the baby's like, ah! And you got like 10 people going, and the pastor's like, well, fix the kid, right? There's like, I think there's some kind of instinct level reaction, reflexive reaction that we have when a child cries, and we want to either protect. There's something wrong with the kid. Is there a snake in the cradle? You know, is there something wrong? And so we want to fix it. And so I think that there is this, and for men, and I've heard guys say this before, it's like, don't you think that women are just like the most mature teenager in the house? And on some level, yes. But I think that men react to that because we see women as something that needs protecting, something that women, for men, for most men, and mark my words, for most men, women are a problem to be solved. When it comes to like, I refer to men's mating strategy as like solving their reproductive problem. Men are deductive problem solvers. That's why we kind of are, we want women to be these logical boxes, or, you know, these things that we can just sort of unravel and figure out. And all you got to do is just logically use this formula, these mathematics, and it'll work. And it doesn't, because women are working on an emotional level and men are working on a rational level. I've talked about that before: instinct, emotion, and reason. And that, by the way, I'm going to, if you guys want me to, I don't know. I was debating on doing a full show dedicated to instinct, emotion, and reason. I have done a show about appeals to reason and why that's not a good idea. I watched Joe Rogan talking to some chick. I don't know who she was, about like, she was like, I don't know if she was a Black Lives Matter person or something like that, but she was like talking about, oh, we need to defund the police. And Joe Rogan is like trying to make this reasonable, rational. I'm not going to put it up on, because I'd probably get demonetized if I did, because I think there's probably copyright issues. And I know YouTube is not a big fan of Rogan right now, but they're having this debate, and she is approaching this, her point of view, her perspective, like, we need to defund the police, is all based on emotions. And then Rogan's like, what the hell are you talking about? And so he's like trying to say rationally and reasonably, you know, well, if we defund the police, then what are you going to do when, you know, the Huns come and attack you and take your house and your business and everything else. And she's like, well, it's all she does is fall back on emotions, feels before reals. And so you've got Joe Rogan on the other side trying to say reasonably and rationally talk. And he doesn't understand why there's no disconnect there. And the reason is because women prioritize emotion before reason. And say, well, that sounds very childish. Yeah, it can be, because for the most part, women prioritize instinct, then emotion, and then reason. For men, it's usually instinct, reason, and then emotion. And that's I can prove that to you in neurological studies. How men and women, this another gender difference, men and women process emotions differently. Sorry, that's just how we're built. And particularly, negative emotions. Negative emotions are really tough. That's why when women say, well, men are not good listeners. No, they're good listeners. They just are done with your shit. They just listen to you. And it's like, what is that? Remember that video? It's Not About the Nail. And it's the chick who's having this discussion about like this pain that she has in her head. And she has a physical, actual big old like construction nail, like glued, I guess, onto her head. And she's trying to talk to this guy on the couch with her. And she's just like, oh, I have this really, I don't know, it's just splitting headache. I just don't know what to do about it. And the guy's like, well, you have that nail in your head. Maybe if we pulled that out, you wouldn't. And she's like, it's not about the nail, and it's like, how come you can't just listen to me? And so the guy is approaching the problem from a rational side, and the woman is approaching it from, I just want to be heard, and I want to feels before reals. And that's where I think where we're at today globally, not just in Western culture, I think globally, we are in the feels before reals age. We are in the age of emotion, the age of ego. That's where we're at right now. So yeah, I think you're right, Mr. C. I think guys all think of women as sort of being these 12-year-olds or these children because of innate differences, cognitive differences between men and women. Let's see. I know I'm losing it on these. Sorry. I have Sam Bada in the house. He is checking everything out. Okay, I'm gonna roll back a little bit here, guys. Sorry if I didn't get you on the thing. I don't know who this is. I got another one. I didn't get the thing. It says, I'm going on a date with a 21-year-old. I'm 18. Anything I should keep in mind? I'm conscious that her SMV is way higher than mine. Great work. Okay. So if you're 18 and she's 21 and you think that she's out of your league or she's above you as SMV, you are correct in your assessment. But she's not going out with, she's most likely she's not going out with you because she thinks you are like witty. She's probably not going out with you because you have a lot of money or you have some world-worn wisdom. She's going out with you because she wants to bang, more or less. Usually it's unusual for a woman to go out with a guy or to get with a guy who is younger than she is. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. Certainly it does with cougars and everything else. Got it. Yeah. Okay. But for the most part, by and large, statistically, women go for men that are anywhere between 3 and 7 years older than they are. And that's in a long-term sense. When women sort of go backwards, when women, like, say you got a woman who's 25 and she's dating a guy she's dating a guy who's 23 years old, it's usually because it's sexual. It's usually because it's like the guy is hot and he was hot. I was drunk. He was hot. And one thing led to another. And usually it's not because when women get with a guy who's younger, it's not because they have some long-term plans with him. You're probably short-term sexual rather than long-term relational. Mystery used to have this, Mystery from old school PUA used to have this, I guess it's sort of a measurement kind of thing where women evaluate men on 2 criteria. One is their sexual genetic potential and their survival potential. And he named it something else, something different, but that's the gist of it. And it sort of coincides with a lot of what evolutionary psychologists have looked into, sexologists have looked into, is that women, when they have sex or when they get with a guy, it's usually a short-term sexual thing, like it's a fling, right? We just had foam cannon, Cancun, hot guy, that whole thing. That's a short-term sexual. long-term relational cads and dads, usually that guy is older. So when you're younger, it's probably because she wants to bang you. So keep that in mind. That's the good news. Don't think that she's out of your league, because if she was, she wouldn't be with you. So you have to keep in mind where you're at and enter into action with boldness. You don't, was it act as if you have a 9-inch dong, right? Chris Von Erich says, what is your opinion on the culture and what is going on may affect not only dating, but relationships in the short term and the long term? Chris, as far as the civil unrest that is going on all around the world right now, remember I was going to tweet this out, but I'll just say it right here. Remember how everybody was just joking around when COVID was a thing, and like the end of March all through probably April, and everybody was yucking it up about, oh, I thought that the apocalypse, or I thought a post-apocalyptic future was going to look like Road Warrior, and here I am in my pajamas, eating pizza and watching Netflix. Good times. No, you're in that post-apocalyptic future. You will be soon. You're talking about defunding the police and talking about, basically making permanent this civil unrest is interesting to me right now. I am sort of trying to have a God's eye view of this whole thing. So, of course, relating to my own interests in my own blog and my own, writing and whatever else. Remember also when, back in the COVID days, when women decided that, I think it was, black pill guys or MGTOWs were saying, oh, finally, these women are, that now they're not going to be hoes anymore and they're going to be housewives. Ha ha. That's all it took was a pandemic. No, because women just decided to go on OnlyFans and do their own thing, and that wasn't good. And COVID was not an inconvenience to the feminine imperative, put it that way. What's coming will probably be a big inconvenience to the feminine imperative. So I think what you will see is women opting for I don't want to say traditionally masculine guys, but they will be looking for guys who have a potential for protection for them. And whether that's, the tough guy who can, provide for his family and works in construction or whatever, and, God's guns and glory, that's one archetype of that guy. But I think women will start looking for men who have a protection potential. And whatever that entails, it could be attitude, it could be physique, it could be whatever that guy's belief set is. I don't know. But I think that you're going to see, if things progress the way that I think they will, if things progress to a point, I think you will see women will be opting for guys who have a protector's potential for them. And does that mean that they're going to abandon their friends and abandon social media and get off of OnlyFans and no, it doesn't. For a while they'll try to play both sides of it, like women always do, right? Remember about France and occupied Holland. They will try, like, hypergamy is always practical. It is always pragmatic. So it doesn't matter if the Nazis come in. Oh, well, I got to bang a Nazi and that will ensure my survival. Oh, now they're gone. Oh, it doesn't matter. I'll just have my head shaved and I'll just go back and I'll still be alive and I'll be fine. Yay. It plays both sides. And like I said, cognitive dissonance, whatever works in women's survival interest is whatever that cognitive dissonance is, they don't have any problem with that. So if it's optimizing hypergamy, cognitive dissonance, it's okay, because one of these things is going to pay off. Bang the Nazi or stay true to my country. One of them's going to pay off, so I'll just hold both of them and laugh about it. I'm just a woman, until the cards all fall out, right? Until everything settles, until the dust settles. And then suddenly it's like, I was always, national pride and a patriot to France, whatever it is. You'll see the same thing, because it's practical, and guys need, and I don't want to, and Eric, thanks for asking that question. I don't want guys to get nihilistic about this. I want you to be practical. I want you to be rational, as it's the rational male, right? I want you guys to look at this and think critically. I hope that the guys watching my show watch this to get educated in some way. When it comes to women, I think one of the most important things for a guy to do is not to get emotionally invested in the game, emotionally invested in like women's nature. Oh, isn't it horrible that these women are hypergamous? I hate it. That's you getting emotional in that process. Instead, stand back and say, okay, well, this seems to be the nature. This is a good predictive framework. Hypergamy. Okay. What am I going to do? Am I going to cry about it? Am I going to lose my mind about it? Or I'm going to step back and I go, how can I profit from this? How can I benefit from this? This is the game. How can I be an expert player of that game? Rather than going, we need to change the game. No, sorry, not going to change the game. Certainly not in this condition. Same thing. I think you should apply that to how are you going to survive, man? What are you going to do? I had I hate to say prophetic, but I had kind of some, I don't say premonitions, but I was just sort of, again, when I see stuff like this, the COVID thing, I stood back and I go, the reason why they're doing this is because the elites are looking for some way to start civil unrest as a result of this. I posted that tweet on April 14th. I just retweeted it on my stream right now, my Twitter feed right now. You can go and look at it if you guys want to. And people say, wow, Rollo, he's like Rollo Tomassi. He's like Nostradamus. No, it's seeing patterns. See the patterns and stay on top of those patterns. I think there's a law of power. I can't remember which one it is, but it's like, keep your finger on the pulse of what's going on. It's like the zeitgeist, like the spirit of the age, the things that are going on right now. Once you if you can look at those things in a practical, pragmatic, and don't go, oh man, this really sucks. So that's immoral, or that's moral and that's immoral. Look at the mechanics. How can you benefit from those mechanics? How can you, if you have a sense of ethics and moral, great, that's fine. But when that becomes a hindrance to you assessing what's going on, whether that's with women or with your job or your family or politics or whatever, it behooves you to have a clear vision and not put yourself into things emotionally and don't react too quickly. So let's see. Question: advice for a 5'6", 6 foot tall man. You're doomed. You're doomed. All women just want a guy who's 5'9". It's funny. There's guys who are like 5'9" who are going, oh man, feel pretty tall. And then there's a guy who's like 5'5" going, oh man, there's a guy who's taller than me. That's a deficit. Yes. What are you going to do about it? What are you going to do? Advice for a guy who's 5'6". Do what? Become the best version of yourself that you can. Look for women who are 5'5". That's my best advice for you, sir. Randy Newby says Van Halen or Motley Crue. Oh God, Van Halen. Also, what techniques do you recommend for changing women's minds? I ask because they're instinct, emotion, reason, and don't respond to evidence or logical arguments. Okay, that's like I was saying before, that's the thing that was going on with Joe Rogan and this chick, and I don't remember who she is. It's just now on Twitter, so if you want to go look up Joe Rogan or you can go, you probably get the clip. How do you change their minds? You don't. And in some cases, you have to ask yourself, do I really want to? What would be the point of trying to change this person's mind? And I've had to do that. I've had to step back a lot lately. And, not just with women, but with guys who have a definite feminized mangina, right? A feminization or a feminized way of thinking. And there's a lot of guys like that. We have acculturated via the blue pill. We have made, a generation of men who are defective women now, and they think, and as such, they think like women. So they've been taught to prioritize emotion before reason. So when you're talking to those individuals, and maybe Twitter is the best educator of this, but when you are talking to people like this and you get their opinion, you can see, assuming that you stay on top of your game and you understand what's going on, or you have even just thinking critically, is a rare gift today, because most people think emotionally. So you need to ask yourself this first, Ryan, is what do you want to change their mind? is what's the point of changing their mind? Is it going to affect you? Like, was it Hotep Jesus? I think was it Hotep. Yeah. He said, he puts out these tweets every once in a while where he says, like, who did you give your energy to today? Or who did you engage, like on Twitter, or who did you care about today that was a waste of your time? And I like that. I have to sort of I have to sort of back up and go, yeah, who's worth engaging? Because when I go on Twitter, or when I'm talking with somebody, even live, when I'm talking like face to face in real time with somebody, and they'll tell me stuff that I just simply know is like, that's whack. I got to go. Do I want to get into a ground war with this guy? Do I want to try to, like, even if am I ever going to convince that guy or that woman of my point? And how am I going to change their life? Are they going to go, oh, you know what? Maybe you're right. I think I'm going to change my entire belief set because you said this one thing. It just doesn't happen. So you have to choose your battles. I've said that, unplugging guys from the matrix is a lot like triage. And you have to help the ones that you can, and you have to read Last Rites to the Dying. And the trick of that whole thing is knowing who is who, and backing up off of it. And so I have learned, and maybe this is like sort of wisdom, old man wisdom, right? I have learned that you pick your battles. Like, do you really? Why am I arguing with this person on an emotional? I certainly don't argue on an emotional level, but like you've got like Joe Rogan. I'm going to keep going back to that clip. He's trying to get through and not asking, why am I trying this? Because no matter what I say, it's not going to convince this person, because this person is already emotionally invested and ego invested in their position. And just like COVID, and just like the pandemic sort of brought out like these varying levels of craziness, so I shouldn't say that, these varying levels of belief in certain things. Now you're seeing this global panic, or this global rioting going on, and all of this stuff. And now you're seeing, like, it was just what was under the surface, what was just something that was tweeted on Twitter, is now like a statue being torn down and thrown in the Thames, right? Now it's something that's right at the front door. And I forget who said it, but it's, you might not be interested in the war, but the war is interested in you. And that's, I think, when I think people instinctively realize that, but they're still locked in to their ego investments in being right, because that's how they've lived their lives. So like guys, like people will throw this at me. They'll go, well, Rollo, I need to see 10 peer-reviewed research papers that are independently funded by, well-recognized individual researchers, and they've got to come out of this university and that university. And if you can give me 10 or 12 of those, then I might change my mind. And I could, if I take the time to actually do something like that, the next thing will be, well, I found this one study over here that says all of that, all those 10 meta studies are wrong. So I'm not going to believe it. I'm not going to believe anything. And so I had to think about that. And I go, you know what? Most people, when they develop a belief set, it's not based on empirical evidence. It's not based, like how many, and I asked this question as a result of this is just the joke. I'm finishing the joke here. How many of the beliefs that you hold, or that people hold, and just in general, how many of those beliefs were based on like peer-reviewed study, 10 peer-reviewed studies that were independently funded and came out of these universities by these researchers, and I've got 10 of them. It's got to be true. There is no God. There is no, I don't believe this about women. I don't believe this about greyhound dogs. Well, whatever. No, your belief set is really usually by either what's sort of been fed to you for a long time, how you've been a culture. That's why the blue pill is like so like subversive. It is a form of social engineering, and it's been going on really since I would argue the early to mid 70s. But it's a form of social, and it takes time to get to pound that into people's heads through like songs. Remember, we go back and we listen to like old school songs from with the red pill lens, and we go, oh my God, what was I thinking? It's just got a snappy tune, and it was like, it's a song that I was like singing in the shower when I was like 16, go, I'm gonna keep on loving you, you know, that kind of stuff. Like, we don't think about the lyrics. We're just like in the moment, and it's the emotional thing, and and then when we come back and we look at the lyrics and what was I thinking? And then you look at the popularity of those songs or the popularity of those movies. Like Disney's huge about this. Like Disney is like the most woke. They're the purveyors of woke. They will lose money to ensure that the message gets out there. That's how much money they have. They don't care about losing money. They're not there to make money. Like, they have so much money. They can lose money as long as the message gets out there. So the message has actually superseded kind of like the profit model, because they got more money than they'll ever be able to spend. They're not hurting. So then what happens? What is the imperative? What's the purpose? It's not making money. So what else is there to do with this money that I have? Well, we believe all of these things. Well, what they are is they're an active participant in the socialization of a certain message, a certain narrative, a certain ideology, a certain way of thinking. That's why the red pill is so threatening, and on many levels, but so threatening to that kind of control. Because now, while we have this new order way of disseminating information, grasping and getting information on the street, whether it's like through video or it's through I can go look up those 10 peer-reviewed studies. I can go get those right now on Google and look them up and go, I could probably take me about 20-30 minutes. I could probably go find them to prove a point, and it will take you 5 minutes to go find one that doesn't. And it's like this dueling stuff. But people's belief sets don't come from reasonable, rational stuff. It's usually lived experience is what it is. And part of that lived experience is what's been sort of fed into your brain over a long time. There you go. Thank you very much, Chris Von Erich. Who else do I have here? Math Boy says, what do you think about MGTOW Dictionary and everything he's been saying? I don't know who the dude is. I don't know who MGTOW Dictionary is. People throw things at me all the time. I don't know. I don't know exactly what you're referring to. I can't keep track of all MGTOW this. The only one that I actually keep track of is maybe like Turd Flinging Monkey occasionally. Is he still even like part of that? I don't even know where that guy, I don't even know where TFM fits in. And I think TFM actually probably amongst the new ones, I think that TFM is now old guard. And I think his stuff is again, I think he's got the diagnosis correct, but I don't think he's got the prescriptions correct. But he's really good at what he does. Don't get me wrong. I have a lot of respect for TFM, but I just don't think that the solutions are the correct way of going about things. And I understand why he is where he's at and everything else. I don't, my stance on MGTOW has changed, I think, over the last probably like 4 years. And it changed because I see MGTOW as becoming sort of this grift now. And it's how do you start a men's niche? How do I sell my ebook? How do I sell my program? It's about the sales rather than actually the content. It's all sizzle and no steak. And I think a lot of guys picked up on the fact that MGTOW was a trending tag on YouTube or wherever, and they added that to their profile. And suddenly people are, oh, you're MGTOW? Yeah. Yeah, I am. It's not about the actual interest of that guy. It's about the business of it now. So I kind of look at that. And then I look at things like what happened with DDJ and a guy who was supposed to like all these MGTOWs said, oh, well, they have so much respect for this guy. And it turns out that he's like, simping for girls outside the country. And that's all this crap. And I didn't really want to get too deep into that, but I saw that and I go, okay, that's part of the definition. That's part of the new definition that I have to sort of consider now, is that a lot of these guys talk a good game. They know what to say. They know how to trigger, and they know how to agitate guys who are nihilistic or desperate or emotional about their chances of ever getting laid or ever having anything that they the juice isn't worth the squeeze. You still want the squeeze though. You still want the juice, but you're more in love with complaining about the juice not being a squeeze rather than like, okay, what am I going to do with my life? I did Wednesday. I did the show on Alive Time versus Dead Time. And one of my questions was like, if you've decided to go monk mode, and you've decided, or maybe you just decided to be celibate, or like guys will say, well, what about guys who are, join the monastery, like literally go monk mode, like literally are become, part of the priesthood or whatever. And they take a vow of celibacy and blah, blah, blah. First of all, I think it's next to impossible, but even if so, okay, well, what are you going to do? You're free of all these liabilities of sex. So what are you doing? I would love to see it. I don't. I see more people complaining about things and bitching about their state in the world rather than actually going and doing something. So I don't know. I don't know who the guy is, to be honest with you. So maybe somebody can educate me. Facundo Rosada Ayastaran. Maybe I'm murdering your name, dude. I discovered this through Corey Wayne. And then you. Why is it that you don't recommend him? Corey Wayne? Is that what you're saying? Yesterday, I bought your 3 books. Thank you for everything you do. Well, thank you. I don't know. I don't have any kind of relationship with Corey Wayne. I know what he's done. I worry. I have to be really careful, like who I associate with, obviously. I learned my lesson. Thank you very much. A year ago, I learned my lesson. I think that and I've talked to the guys about this. I've talked to Rich and Ryan, and I think if I have a fault, it's like I'm too trusting of guys. I'm too trusting. I want to believe the best in guys. In fact, that's why I started, doing what I do and writing the book, because I wanted guys to live better lives, or at least give them the tools to live better lives and get the noose off their neck and the gun out of their mouth and everything else that I've said, ad infinitum. But as a result of that, I think maybe I'm a little bit too trusting of guys, and I get burned for that. I get my ass handed to me occasionally. And so I've learned that I need to just sort of, as I said, back up off of things and look at them reasonably. So if I'm a little standoffish to you, or I don't know you, I don't know who MGTOW Dictionary is. I know I've heard, of course, I don't think I've ever watched any Corey Wayne stuff, but I've heard of Corey Wayne. Yeah. I'm glad he enjoys my stuff, but then maybe I'd even like Corey Wayne. I don't know. But then I'll go and I'll see the dude from 33 Secrets essentially read my book on his show, or in his car, and, get 100,000 views on it and him claim that it's his shit. So yeah, I have to be a little bit standoffish. You'll have to pardon me for that. Excuse me, Eli Gerbrandt. What should I do with past sniping targets? Girls that have that you've had friendships with. I decided to forget about them and start fresh. Is it the right thing to do? Yes. Thank you. Oh, Eli, my son. Yes, you're doing the right thing. It is, again, that's iron rule number 7. There you go. Always, what is it? Never root through garbage once you've taken the trash to the curb. That's with friends, and that's with women as well, because I think what a lot of guys do is they try to go back to this idealized state. It's something that they had romanticized in their heads. Whenever I talk to guys who say, Rollo, how do I get my girlfriend back? That is the most common thing that I have to deal with. I've had to deal with like that question since 2002. Rollo, she left me. How do I get her back? How do I get her? You don't. You go and you develop new relationships with new women. That's what you do. And even if you could, I always pose this question to guys. Even if you could get her back, like, what would that change? Would it change the fact that she left you, or she split from you, or you guys broke up? Would it change the circumstances? At some point, she said, her hypergamous nature, whatever, said, you're not the one. You're not the guy I want to get with. You're not the guy. You're not acceptable for my intimate approval. And you were out the door. Now, let's just say, for example, like, oh, you found some magical love potion number 9. You found some kind of formula to get her back. And she says, oh, you know what? You're right. Maybe I should have been with you. Do you believe her? There's a lot of women who would be glad to get back with a lot of guys, particularly after these guys have become successful, or they become like, they say, living well is the best revenge. Yeah. Well, you have to be careful of that. I don't think, okay, here, I agree. I think that living well is the best revenge. However, if you are living for revenge, that's probably a bad thing for you. That's probably something you need to work out for yourself. Well, I'm going to get her, man. I'm going to go and get my master's degree and my doctorate. And then she'll see. I'm going to go and I'm going to start a business and I'm going to make $1 billion and I'm going to start Amazon and put a man on Mars. And then she'll love me. Then she'll see that she blew it. That kind of revenge all that does is eat you up. All that does is that's not success to me. Because it's like, we always say, well, who are you doing for? A crisis of motive, right? What are you doing it for? All you did was to get back at Sally, who blew you off at the junior high school dance. Well, I'm a success. Yeah. That's, that's funny. Cause that's like kind of this, it's kind of a trope, right? It's kind of an old school story. Like it's like this belief that like guys would do stuff like that. And I'm sure they probably would. There's plenty of guys that would have these vicarious fantasies where they do this revenge thing, or they, I have an essay called Old Flame New Game. And I wrote it because so many guys were coming to me saying, Rollo, I know all this stuff now. I read your book. I learned game. I can get laid regularly. I go to the clubs. Look at this chick. They'll show me pictures. Right? Look at this girl. Look at this. Blah, blah, blah. And I'll go, cool. And he goes, okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through, I this old girlfriend that I had in high school who blew me off and thought I was a loser back then. I'm going to hit her up on Facebook and I've been talking to her and she seems really, really interested now. I'm like, yeah, I'm sure she does. Do you think that's based on genuine desire? No, it doesn't. It has nothing to do with it. It's all circumstantial now. Like, oh, I couldn't believe, like, that's when women get into the epiphany phase, then that's when guys are at their weakest point. Cause you'll get this guy who's like, I call them betas in waiting. You'll get the guy who stuck it out and he made partner in the law firm or whatever. He did everything by the book. He did everything he was supposed to do. He did everything that a gynocentric traditional society told him he had to do to be considered a man. And now here he is. He still never really learned red pill. He still has this sort of idealistic, he's blue pill ideals, right, about women. And now he meets the woman who is 29, 30 years old, and she's necessitous. And maybe she blew him off back when he was 18 or 20 or whatever. And now suddenly, oh, I can't believe you were here all along. It's that wait for me narrative. It's just that there was nobody asked that or said that in the beginning. It's like the joke, right? Was it the episode of Friends where Ross and Rachel, if we're single at 30, we'll get married. Okay, deal. Yeah, it's a great deal for Rachel. It's not a great deal for Ross. Well, he should just go and get. So while he's building himself up to be this good long-term prospect, she's on the carousel. And that's not really how the episode goes, but that's the principle, right? But guys are stupid. If you're ignorant, if you're not red pill by the time you get to be 30, you need to be, because you will not be able to make the types of decisions about women at that time. Because most guys, when they get to be 30, they'll have women who they never had in their lives suddenly call them out of the blue. Hey, how's it going? We haven't talked in a while. Isn't Facebook great? It's like, where did this person come from? I've got 3 kids and 2 different fathers, but like, boy, we need to catch up and have coffee sometime. And then, so the guys will say this to me, as they'll go, well, hey, I'm red pill now. I got this under control. I can get back with the girl of my dreams, the girl that I wanted to get with all those years ago. It's like, that's not the same girl. That girl's not the same one anymore. She's what made her that girl that you were like all jerking off to and wanting to get with all the time. That girl's gone. That's 10 years ago, man. 12 years ago. This is this girl right now with her girl needs and everything else. The decisions she made and liability she has, and she wants you to be that guy. Nope. Eli, that was you. Troy Delama. Are you a llama? Troy Delama, to what extent do we control our life? I'm 43, never married, successful, and good looking. Good looking. Really, really ridiculously good looking. Just didn't meet the right one yet. Well, that's your problem right there. I do the work, by the way. Concerned I never might meet a good one to settle and will not have a family. Okay, so here's my advice to you. To what control do you have? You have as much control of your life as you are willing to assume for yourself. That's that, and I realize that's really kind of platitude-y kind of nonsense, but I don't want to go too fortune cookie on you, but you have as much control over your life as you are willing to give yourself permission to have over yourself. There's old man Rollo. But the second part of your question, this is really the meat of the matter here is, I am a 40-year-old, never married. Okay. I don't know where you are in life as far as like your career and what you've done. Were you in the military? What's your family like? Yada, yada. I mean, it's kind of, okay. Those are the limitations. So bear with me here. When I talk to guys like this, I always tell them, go make sure that you're looking younger. Make sure that you're looking for a woman who is at least, in your case, I would say 10 years younger. So you're looking at a woman who's about 33 years old. The brilliance of this, like here's a great thing. You're 43. Let's just say you're on top of your game. Okay. This is hypothetical. You're on top of your game. You're red pill. You're spinning plates. You have experience with women. I don't know that this is the case with you because it seems like you're a little on the blue pill side with respect to, I need to find the one. Usually what I tell guys is this, is if you are in a monogamous relationship with a woman, or should say, if you're with a woman and it's like she is coming to you, you're the alpha and she's into your frame and she is like desires to be in your frame, like shows you, like is excited and enthusiastic about being in your frame, monogamy ends up becoming a byproduct of that. So it's not like, oh, okay, you're going to be my boyfriend and I'm going to be your girlfriend. You don't say those words. Those words should never come out of your mouth. It should be just something that is like, it seems like this is a good idea. This is where I want to be. She's that's it. When I hate to use my own situation, but I will use it in this case, is like when I was with my wife, we were both non-exclusive. We were dating non-exclusively for probably about 4 months before we became exclusive. And the best part, whether I didn't do this intentionally, but one of the best things that happened was I kept her at arm's distance because I was real sketchy. I wanted to be spinning plates at that time because I'd just come out of the BPD relationship and I was not looking to get married or have kids or move away to somewhere. I was making plans to go back to college and it was me. It was all about me. Mental point of origin. That's the time in my life where that was developed in my brain. And as a result of that, just my attitude, just my changing. Like, I don't think people really realize this, but you were talking about like how much control do you have over your life? When you are in control, when you have power in your life, and a lot of people, I don't know if a lot of people understand what I mean when I talk about like what real power is. Real power is the degree or the element of control that you have over the direction of your own life. It's not like I'm going to beat you down and I'm going to force these guys to do whatever. That's only a manifestation of power. When guys like tyrannize other people or domineering personality types, when you say, oh, that guy's powerful. That's one of the reasons why we say power is a no-no. Because guys will use power for evil and not for good. And that's nonsense. But second of all, when we think of power, we think of it as power over others. Power is like, at least in my opinion, my humble opinion, is power is the degree of control you have over your own life and the direction of the things that you want to do. If you're an asshole, then yeah, you're probably going to domineer other people because why? because you're the direction that you're going in your life. You believe that you need you need to domineer these people so that you have more control over your life. There you go. It's an outcropping of that. But so I don't think a lot of guys actually give themselves permission to change their minds about themselves. That's where that's I think is the part about power that most guys don't really I'll say acknowledge, but they don't really use. They don't actionabilize it or whatever. I don't even know what the word I'm searching for is for this one, but you don't be worried like that you are never going to find somebody, because you really at this stage you need to be concerned. Like, you're just asking me about power, right? Well, you need to be the guy that makes those directions. And what happens is when you're that guy, when you are in control of your life, or you have power and you have frame, guys don't realize that they are like, remember we were talking about before about telegraphing behaviors, about the guy who was like, oh, I'm afraid that women think I'm too nice. Yeah, because you're telegraphing that behavior. Women pick up on your behaviors and your subcommunications and they go, nice guy. They do the same thing about powerful guys too. And you don't realize that you're doing it. So when we say a guy is a natural, or we see a guy, oh, he's Chad, man, look at his chin. Oh, I can't believe it. He uses jazzercise. They should pay me. They should pay me for jazzercise. When we look at that guy, we say that guy's got control. That guy has power over the direction of the life that what does he get? Women want to get with him. Yeah, because he has that appearance of power. He has that appearance of a guy who does something that he wants to do, that he's got a control over the direction of his life that you don't have. And you'll say, well, it's because he's 6 foot tall. He's jacked. Yeah, there's plenty of guys who aren't 6 foot tall. Maybe they're not as jacked, but they're in control of the direction of where they're going. They have frame, and women pick up on that, because when you do, you manifest behaviors and attitudes and you're just the way you think about things and the way you express things, whether that's through talking, whatever else. And I don't think guys really realize that they telegraph those things, because remember how we always talk about how like guys will say, well, I can't keep up the act, Rollo. It's game. I can't keep it up. I don't want to be that. Well, guess what? When you are the game, when you internalize the red pill, what does that do? Well, it changes who you are, assuming you allow yourself to give yourself permission to change. But you know what it also does? It also you also have different manifestations of behavior. Last example, when you're a fat guy or you're a skinny guy, you get into the gym, you start putting on muscle, and you look good, and you're maybe maybe not even that, right? Maybe you're like 8 months in, and you're looking better, you're feeling better. Do you think that that's going to change your attitude? Do you think that naturally, when women come up to you and go, man, let me touch your muscles, that when women actually start opening you, what does that do to you up here? Do you change your attitude? Do you change the way that you talk? Do you change who you are? You're goddamn right you do. Like, like when guys will say like this, like, was it you make a lot of money, man. You won the lottery. You make $1 million. You gonna let that money change you? You're fucking right. I'm gonna let it change you. Of course, it's going to change you. There's nothing you can do about it. You're gonna have something else that's going. Hopefully you're humble and stay down to earth, but you're gonna have changes in you if you're jacked, because in the back of your monkey brain that you're jacked. That's who you are. Now I'm this. I was that. Now I'm this. And so, women pick up on those changes. You telegraph those behaviors of that change that's in your head. So something to keep in mind, maybe that's not your question, Tony, but if I have advice for you, I would say go younger, and then realize that you don't have to get married. You don't have to have children. You don't have to do those things. And when you back up off of that, you're a hot commodity, right? Assuming you are who you say you are, you are in good shape. You got a good job. You've never been married. You're 43 years old. And you're looking for somebody to have, to settle down with. You're in pretty good shape. I would be careful of running into women who are going to see you as their meal ticket. So be as red pill aware as you possibly can. Stay on top of your game, and then realize that the women, like, remember how I was saying, you should go with somebody who's 10 years younger than you, maybe even 12. If you do that, you're looking at right around the epiphany phase, and they're looking exactly for you. So what are you going to do? You have that knowledge, you have that foresight, you understand what it is that women are looking for at that particular time in their lives, that phase of maturity. What are you going to do with it? Use that to your advantage. Marcus, is finding red pill friends in real life realistic? And if so, how would you go about it as a 20-year-old? Never, especially in this day and age, never reveal that never even say the word that you're a red pill. Again, look for attitudes, look for opinions, look for the way that guys talk about things. People will say, well, how do I know if a guy's red pill or not? Well, you will know them by their fruits. You will know them by how they talk and what their attitudes are about certain things. When guys ask me this, they'll say, how do I red pill my friends? My brother, he needs to be red pill. He's going to go down a bad path if I don't red pill. It's a verb, right? And I will say this is like, they'll ask me, how do I do that? And I go, well, you don't do it by just saying, here's I don't have a copy right now. Here's the rational male. Go and read this. And then when you do, we'll talk about it. And then you'll be red pill too. Okay. Don't do that. Because again, like I was saying before, when people have belief sets and ego investments, it's not as the result of reading the rational male or reading a book. Hopefully it does. Hopefully I'm presenting it so people can educate themselves. I want to believe, maybe that's me being idealistic. I would love to believe that all you would have to do is read any of my books and suddenly you're like, oh, I'm enlightened. That's not usually the way that it works. I'm glad that the rational male is what it is right now. But usually what happens is guys they'll go, you're one of them red pill guys. What's wrong with you? I mean, hey, look over here. There's a misogynist. Look, that's what usually happens. And you get run up the flagpole. So what I tell guys is this, is if you want to unplug somebody, or if you're trying to find red pill friends, you have to wait for your moments. So like, let's just say for sake of argument, you're trying to unplug somebody from the matrix, right? You don't do that by just smacking them over the head with the rational male. You point out things that are going on in society. You say, hey, what do you think about this over here? It seems to me that like this is reverse sexism. It seems to me like hypergamy is a real thing. Look, here's this girl who's only into these guys, but yet she says she wants to get with a nice guy who's going to, be a good provider and a good father for her children, but yeah, she keeps going and banging these guys in this foam cannon party here in Mexico. Why do you think that is? Like, have those conversations, wait for your moments, and little by little you go, okay, you can't, like, they say you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. Well, you got to find a way to lead the horse to the water. That's the thing. Okay, there you go. Marcus. Who else? Sizzy Monster. Very nice. Took my current girlfriend virgin. You took your current girlfriend's virginity. I would assume that's what you're saying. Claims I'm the love of her life. I'm sure she does. Very good girl, Catholic. I'm sure she is. Probably break up because I graduate. Morality is holding me back. Please help. I don't think I can help you. Actually, I think you're doing fine by yourself. This is a good, I don't think I've talked about this before. This is a good illustration of guys who get with women who are virgins. And God, this is going to take me half an hour to give this to you. When you get, like, I usually tell guys to be very careful of getting with virgins, because a lot of guys, particularly Muslim guys, or particularly guys who are like have this really sort of pie in the sky idealism about like, I don't want anything but a perfect virgin bride. Oh, how do I ever get her? I don't want somebody who has no baggage. First of all, you're not going to find that. But even if you did, and I have had, let's see, of the 43, 44 girls I've had sex with, 2 of them were virgins. And in both of those cases, the same thing happened. I was the first, and therefore I was the most alpha guy that she had ever been with. And again, this is my rock star 20s. So I have sort of this appeal, and I used to think, wow, this is going to be great, man. I'm going to have sex with a virgin. Oh man, this is going to be a great experience. And it was pretty good, but what comes afterwards is really tough, because what happens is when women, because of women's sexual strategy, they're looking for the best. And the guy who's ideally, the guy who is the first guy to get past the hypergamous filter, is the first guy who was good enough for her to sort of give herself to give her virginity. Like this way, say, oh, I took her virginity, as if it's like a thing, right? As if it's a gift. It's something that I get, right? I took your virginity. Nobody takes a guy's virginity. A guy's like, I want to lose my virginity. That's what guys say. But when we're talking about women, we say, well, I took her virginity. But for guys, it's, I lost my virginity to her. Or I want to lose my virginity. Help me, Rollo. How do I live? I'll teach you what cat house game. I'll teach you whorehouse game here in Nevada. Just give me $500 for my proven program, and I'll guarantee you'll lose your virginity here in Nevada. Come on down. But the problem is that when you do that, women, you know, the old saying is like, you never forget your first. There's a reason for that, because women literally never forget their first. I know, I remember the first girl that I had sex with, yes, but it's not like I go, oh, I remember the girl who I lost my virginity to. No, it's not as big a deal, I think, for most guys as they want to make it out to. And if it is, it's usually because you either have religious, you know, convictions, or you have been feminized to think like a woman. Sometimes those are both the same thing. But the problem is that women get addicted to that, or they think that because you were the first, that you must have been the best, and that you should, like, they'll build up this sort of mental image of what you're supposed to be because you're the first. And you get into a lot of emotional connections and a lot of things, like particularly if you're a guy who's had multiple women before this one virgin. Like if you're both virgins and you take her virginity, that's one thing. It's another thing if you've had like 10 girls and then you meet the girl who's a virgin and you're like, oh, wow, she's really attached. What am I going to do? And for a lot of guys, that might be the first time they ever encounter something like that, and they don't know what to do. So I have always advised guys, don't get with a virgin. And if you do, be ready for that. And if you're religious and if you're Muslim, if you're Mormon, if you're, well, I don't know, whatever it is, and that's your thing, stick to it. Stick to your convictions. I want a virgin. Okay, then that's it. But even if you get with that girl who is a virgin and you think, okay, well, I'm going to marry her, blah, blah, blah. Even still, the girl whose virginity you took is always going to have some kind of obsession for you. That might wane after a while, but certainly at the beginning, you're definitely going to have that kind of like obsessive compulsiveness that comes with that. So beware. Let's see. Mr. Duke says, Mr. Duke, I'm newly single, never spun plates. How do I get over the girls being with other guys? Do any plates stay loyal knowing they're plates? Depends on what your frame is. Depends on your... Yeah, I'm going to say, but depends on like how desired you really are. You've never spun plates before, but you're asking me, how do you know that they're loyal? That's the problem. You don't care if they're loyal because you're spinning plates. They're going to go do what they're going to go do. And I know a lot of guys will say, well, I want to have a harem. That's a harem, but that's not spinning plates. That's not dating non-exclusively. That's really where plate spinning is it's about dating non-exclusively. It's about being the guy that other guys want to be and other women want to bang. And I'm always saying, you know, you don't have to be like, you don't have to, like I've said before, women say they want honesty, but they never want full disclosure. So you got to be honest. And I've always said, and if you go and read any of my six different essays on plate theory, I always say, be above board, be honest. Just say, hey, you know what? You don't even, if it comes to that, if it comes to saying, well, I'm a free agent, right? I'm community property. Some of you will get that joke. But you don't have to like verbalize that. You do that through your behaviors. Pook has always said this, is that women would rather share an alpha than be saddled with a faithful loser. So, and we see this now. You want to know why polygyny is, we're having this conversation again, where it's one guy and many women. and we say, well, one, like 4 girls with one guy, or with one husband. Like you got Abu American, like in the Muslim cultures, like I think the maximum you can have is 4 wives. And that doesn't mean that you have to have 4 wives. It means you can. It's an option. You can have 4 wives. Some just have 1, right? Okay. But it's really kind of like, it's not so much about like how many can you manage. It's like being the guy who is the one that can have that, is being the guy. And I don't want to really make that comparison, because polygamy and polyamory is not plate spinning. Plate spinning is non-exclusivity. When you're talking about issues of poly, there's always some amongst those plates in poly, there's 1 or 2 that you're loyal to, right? That you have a relationship with, but you're banging other girls on the sides. What I'm talking about is non-exclusivity. You're single, they're single. That's how it should work. Ideally, that's how it should work out. But what the women that you're with know that, and they're willing to share you. And why is that? Because you're high enough value guy that's what they want to do. Go look at like the Tates, right? Okay. You can use Andrew Tate as a good example of this. He's got his girls. Granted, they're financially dependent upon him, but okay, they're still there. They're there by as he said, it's comply or goodbye. I don't think he would want to have a girl that is like obligated to be with him. You want women who are desire to be with you. So don't make it about like loyalty, particularly not in plate spinning. It's plate spinning. Like if you need to go read those 6 essays about plate spinning, because when I talk about that, there's actually a method to the madness when it comes to plate spinning. It's to determine genuine interest. And it, like, guys will say, well, Rollo, all he talks about is plate spinning. All he cares about is just getting laid with as many women as humanly possible. No, that's not what it's about. It's about getting experience with women and understanding women's nature. And then there's a transitioning where you go from spinning plates to, maybe I like this one. Maybe it's just this unavoidable thing. Like, oh, well, I liked her so much that I wanted to be monogamous with her. The end. Now you're with a girl. Now suddenly, oh, wow, Rollo's, he's really a trad con. I can't believe it. He's been married for almost 24 years. I was non-exclusive for a long time, particularly in my 20s. What's funny is the times that I was exclusive, I ended up getting fucked, except for the woman that I'm with now, with my wife, who I've been with for 24 years. And no, I've not cheated on her, you fucking idiots. So, when I talk about non-exclusivity, it's because that's what I did from certainly my early 20s. And then every time I got into an exclusive relationship, because I thought I still had that blue pill, idealism as part of me. That's when I was put into the pit of misery. Like every single woman who I had got with on an exclusive basis had either cheated on me, or I was like, I knew it wasn't going to work out. And I made decisions, and I again, like, remember we were talking about power in the direction of your life. If you're in a relationship with a woman where you don't have power over your life in the direction of where you're going, why are you with that person? Why? I've said before, is like, mental point of origin and enlightened self-interest. I'm not going to get into that again, but why would you be with somebody who doesn't respect you as a guy? If she's in your frame, you should not have any qualms about, deciding where you're going to go and what you're going to do. I'm going to go to the moon, bitch. Okay, well then you be careful. I don't want nothing to happen to you. That's what you want, right? I mean, I'm going to the moon. Okay. So you want the ride or die girl. Missing purple cow is current situation. Oh, no, I don't have that yet. Sorry. Missing purple cow is current situation, the natural progression of a gynocentric social order and male feminization. Yes. Ultimately leading to more socialist policies. Yes, because socialism makes sense to a collectivist female nature. That's why. That's why you have all this. That's why we dance around and play footsie with shit like, oh, so the democratic socialism. Well, if we put democratic attached to socialism, then people will be able to eat the poison with the sugar. All right, cool. Why does that seem like a good idea? Why is that even a discussion? I remember, maybe you took this history lesson. I don't know. I wasn't alive back then, but during McCarthyism, when it was the Red Scare and there was all this, hell, one of the reasons we went to Vietnam was because we wanted to fight communism. We fought wars against communism, or at least the idea. Now, granted, we fought wars because it's a war economy. The industrial military complex had to be fed. I get it. I understand. But ideologically, or I came across this term. I've actually come across it before, but there's a Latin term called casus belli, right? C-A-S-U-S, casus belli, B-E-L-L-I, which is cause for war. What is it that triggered the war? And the casus belli of what we're the civil unrest, the global civil unrest that we're seeing, is just one simple, it's an act of violence. I'm not going to say that it wasn't bad. Okay, it's bad. But is it bad? Is it so bad that people in New Zealand are going to overthrow the government? Yes, it was. Okay, I get you. Bad situation. There's lots of bad situations all over the country, all over the world. But why are people rioting in, London? Why are people rioting in, New Delhi? Why are people rioting in, because it's not because of that. That's just that was just the casus belli, right? That was okay. It's on. Doesn't matter. Everybody, it's on. Everybody across the world. And I will guarantee. So that's the first part. The second part of this is that I think what you're going to see soon is you're going to see a great women's uprising of some sort. There's going to be a global women's uprising. If they did it in 2016, 2017, when Trump was put in office, you think they're going to miss an you think that the feminine imperative, let's just say, is going to miss an opportunity to do exactly the same thing, and maybe even worse. They're going to look there's going to be a casus belli for the Women's March too. So it'll be like an Elliot Rodgers kind of thing, or it doesn't even have to be all that serious. It can be just enough to trigger what's already ready to go. The pandemic was another thing. You can't put that many people into lockdown and, speaking from the U.S. economy, so you can't put 40 million people out of work and have them not be able to pay the bills and they're sitting around. And you can't do that and not get civil unrest. That's why I put that tweet out. I said, we're waiting for the civil unrest and it's coming. And here we are. No, Rollo, you're Rollo Tomassi. No, I'm not. It's just a pattern. It's just patterns. It's just looking at what's going to happen. You want to know what's going to happen next? Go read Animal Farm by George Orwell. It's not about 1984 anymore. It's about Animal Farm. And we're in the very beginning of Animal Farm right now, but not in just one country. The whole goddamn world is your Animal Farm right now. So yes, but to get back to our wheelhouse here, I think what's going to happen is you're going to see more and more women are going to be sympathetic to socialism because I think there's an innate attraction. There's a collectivist nature to women, and so what's the political ideology of that collectivism? Socialism. And then maybe communism. Who knows? I don't want to get political here, but when it comes to like intergender or intersexual dynamics, I'll talk about that because there's a crossover there, and that's where the crossover is. We've feminized generation after generation, and we don't know what to do with ourselves. We think it's a great idea to go out there and riot and do everything for something that happened tens of thousands of miles away. It's a casus belli. This was going to happen anyways. We just need an excuse. The world needed an excuse. So, Bach Docs. Which one is this? Oh, wow. I did it. Holy shit. I caught up. Bach Docs says, how do you deal with cock blocks? Bach Docs has a problem with cock blocks. So, how do we get rid of cock blocks for Bach Docs? Example, you have a date with a third person, I think is what you're saying, tries to ruin your date. He says, so you guys hook up together or you hook up together or what? Okay. In that case, okay, so you're giving me a very specific instance. There's a few things. There's a cock block who is an amog, and there's a cock block who is a cock block but doesn't know that he's a cock block. Or he is a guy who is trying to be he doesn't realize he's being a cockblock, but he's doing so because he has this idealistic notion of what women really want. Like he thinks he's being the hero. Most guys bear with me here. There's the AMOG guy. The AMOG guy is like right up in your face, and he's trying to like, he's trying to bring you down, or he's trying to like make you look like an asshat because he's establishing his superiority. A guy who's the opposite side of that, which is what you're describing here, is the guys who try to subvert you, right? These are the cock blocks who go, so you guys hooking up together? Huh? You know, oh, you shouldn't say that about women. You shouldn't do that about women. That's not right. You know, they're like Rick Moranis. You shouldn't do that, man. That's wrong. that guy, the blue pill, there's the blue pill cock block, and then there's the alpha cock block, which is usually the AMOG. The blue pill guy, actually, he's easier to deal with because all you have to do is this. I don't think that a lot of guys who learn game realize the utility that most blue pill men really represent to them. You can use, if you want to get real Machiavellian and real dark triad, guys who are the blue pill guys, blue pill cock blocks, those guys, they represent an opportunity because what that does is, and if you do it tactfully, you're not like, I mean, maybe you're hurting the guy's feeling. I don't know. But if you do it tactfully, it doesn't look like you're attacking him. You're just establishing yourself above that guy in the pecking order. So when, in this case, somebody says, oh, you guys getting laid, you go, yeah, you agree and amplify. You use the same game that you would use on the girl on that guy. So he says, oh, are you guys getting after? Are you guys a thing? Yep, man, we've been doing it. She takes it in the ass, man. It's awesome. You know, like you agree and amplify and build it up and then make it like, and joke about it. And she laughs along with you and he looks like an idiot because and what you do is you bring the girl in and it's like, she's on the inside. It's an inside joke between you and her and you're at his expense. And that makes you look like you're above this guy. And so therefore brings you up in the dominance hierarchy. That might be, you might, oh, that's terrible, Rollo. How can you do something so manipulative? Well, I'm just schooling this guy. And that's where we're going with it. So that is your €5 answer. Runt again says, I'm actually genuinely nice. This makes a lot of sense. How can I act like a jerk then? I apologize. I'm new here. Well, good. How do I act like a jerk? I got to be a jerk. Don't be a jerk. You have to, well, certainly don't like just change your attitude immediately because people will say you're a poser. You just have to start caring about yourself more. You have to acknowledge that you are the most important thing in your life. You have to make yourself your mental point of origin and act accordingly. And, you know, how do you act like a jerk? Well, it's not so much acting like a jerk as it is sort of like copying that jerk energy. Runt, since I already answered you one time before, I'm gonna refer you to an essay I have. It's called The Nice Guy Jerk Spectrum. It actually goes into all of this stuff that you're asking me questions about. Go to the Rational Mail, type in Nice Guy Jerk Spectrum in the search key there, and then look that up. That will definitely help you out. TB8 says, any thoughts on the political social effects of childless younger women? Seems like higher female empathy and anxiety is being weaponized. My concern is this, TB8, 88, ID 88, remember that? Any thoughts on the political? Okay, I would say this is, I'm not so worried about, like, a lot of women want to say that they have some sort of metaphysical supernatural ability or for, you know, capacity for empathy. I do think that there's a natural argument or a natural debate that you could say, but it's certainly not supernatural. It's nothing along those lines. But because of that mythology, like saying that women have this, they're more caring than men. Men need to get in touch with their feelings and they need to be more emotional and they need to express themselves emotionally more. Well, what does that look like? It looks like a defective guy because guys don't process emotions in the same way. Okay. Is the anxiety being weaponized? Well, yeah, it can be. I think that you'll see, like, I think there's a sort of a, when it comes to, like, say, the feminine imperative, it is a conflict of interest. Remember we were talking about cognitive dissonance? Women get conflicting messages from the media right now. Like on one side, I can go do this right now. I can go up on Google and I can find you these articles and we can do a compare and contrast. And 1 month there'll be an article and it'll be about a study about how women are happier without kids. And women's happiness levels, however they subjectively, self-report it and figure that out or measure that. Women's happiness levels are at 100% when they're young or when they're like 36 and they're childless and they don't have a husband. And that, they'll say that you'll be happier that way. And then you'll see another article that'll say, well, men, they need to be married because if they're not, they'll get sick and die, or men need women but women don't need men. That's pretty much the messages. Like if you just went by the titles of those articles, that's what you would get. Like men's immune system is stronger when they're married. So get married or you're going to die, guys. You'll make more money as a married man than you will as a single guy. Well, yeah, because you have to make more money. It doesn't mean the funny thing is if you go and you show somebody the statistics about how women make less money than men, but women are actually in control of more wealth than men. They control the spending way more than men do. I mean, like, what was it? 90. I've got an infographic of all this stuff. The men's, was it in the course of a family's history, women will be responsible for 90% of the financial decisions for that family. And women will go, well, we're not making 77 cents on the dollar. Yeah, but you're spending 90% of the money that's coming into the family and making decisions for that family. Remember what we talked about? Power? Remember when we said, what is power? Being able to control the directions of your life. Getting married, you pretty much you're powerless. We say that all the time, right? Well, men become powerless when they're married. Yeah, you do. Sorry, you are. But then we read article after article about how happy men are and how much better lives they live and how longer they live, right? You're supposed to live longer if you're married. But for women, you're supposed to be childless and unmarried, and then you'll be happier. That's the ideal life. Sound like conflicting messages? And then the month after that or the week after that, we'll hear how some, screenwriter from Sex and the City said she really regrets not getting married and really regrets not having kids. And it's funny to me, and I actually have been writing about this in my notes here for book 4. It's interesting to me that women's sense of victimhood is something that is uniting for them, but there's never any way to solve that. Women need a victimhood. For the sisterhood to exist, it has to be based on victimhood. There has to be some sort of shared struggle. What I call this? I call this, the sisterhood and suffering, or I should say the sisterhood of suffering. I might even put this in as a blog post because I thought it was really good. It'll be in the book, but I thought it was really good. There is no sisterhood without suffering. There is no solidarity amongst women. Remember talking about socialism and collectivism of women. There is none of that without suffering. There's none of that without women having this perpetual victim status on them forever. There's no end to it. Like when feminists say, "Oh, we're fighting for gender equality," no, you're not. You're fighting for power, fighting for supremacy, social supremacy, but you're not fighting for equality. If you were fighting for equality, you would be interested in men's, equality as well as women's. That's never been the imperative. But it's always been about, feminism has always been about women's powerlessness. Because when women become empowered, feminism goes away. We can't have that. We need that to keep perpetuating so that we can continue this ideology and keep going with it. They don't want homogeny. They want empowerment. But they can't have that because it won't sustain feminism. Bob Laser. How has factors such as social media and dating apps changed the timeline in your book, Preventive Medicine? If anything, it's pushed it out because women think they have, that's a good question, Bob. Women think they have more time than they actually do. I think one of the reasons why you see things like technologies like freezing eggs and being like a benefit for like Fortune 500 companies or whatever, for women is because of social media. Social media, for women, social media is like pornography. It satisfies, it scratches the same itch as pornography does for men, because it's a constant source of reward, of social reward. I don't think men can't really appreciate, like women can't appreciate just how single-minded men are about sex and pornography. That's why pornography is a big thing. In the same fashion, I don't think men really appreciate just how obsessed women are with attention and with the good feels that come from indignation and from emotional connections or emotional associations. And social media does that. There's nothing that feeds women's need for indignation better than social media. But as a result of that, what happens is women are exposed to the global sexual marketplace. We're really right now, all the crap that's going on, you're looking at globalization is having birth pains right now. And that globalization is not just economics or race or politics or any of that stuff. That is about the sexual marketplace. It's about social issues. It's about everything. And if we think that it's just limited to, it's globalization where we're all going to be on a one world economy. No, we're going to be a one world religion. We're going to be on a one world politics. We're going to be on a one world way of thinking about men and women. All that stuff is coming out right now. We're going to be globalized. We're already in a global sexual marketplace. We just didn't realize it until recently. Red pill wouldn't even exist if it weren't for a global sexual marketplace or the ability to have that global communication. So what does it do to the timeline? I think what it does is it pushes women's age, or the belief that women have more time than they actually do. So when I say that the epiphany phase is like, 29 to 31, I might say like by 2025 or maybe 2030, I would say, well, maybe the epiphany phase is now 33 to 36 for women because they believe that they have more time. They think, oh, okay, well, I'm not, like, we've seen the age of first marriage get pushed further and further back. So you've got like 28 for women and 30 for men right now, assuming you're going to get married in the future anyways. Like, you take away the ideal of getting married and having kids and everything else. What does that do to fertility rates, first of all? What does that do socially? What does that do religiously? Like when God, and I've said this before, I'll say it again. When I talk about red pill intersexual things, it affects everything. So the way that we as human beings, as male human beings and female human beings, and our attitudes and what we believe about sex and what we believe about relationships and fertility and reproduction and all that stuff, it affects every fucking aspect of human society. Everything. That's why it's important. It's not just, Rollo, go get laid as much as you can. Fuck you. It's about politics. It's about race. It's about religion. It's about, globalization. It's about all of that. So that's, why do you take that so seriously? You're all about sex. Yeah, you're goddamn right I am. And then I will continue to be until I can't be anymore. So yeah, I agree, Bob. I started to get all heated on you, but that's the real thing is like after a while, the decisions and the technologies that we have, like prior to all of this, remember back in when was it in the 60s, 70s, if you were 20, if you were 25 in like 1975, that's pretty late to get married. Now, women wouldn't dream of getting it. Even guys, well, first of all, guys don't want to get married, period, because of, it's a bad deal. But like you said, hey, when do you want to get married? Women will say, I don't know, maybe when I'm 30. Oh, my biological clock is ticking. You believe that lie too. Gravity beast. Somebody needs to draw me a picture of a gravity beast. I want to see like some sci-fi concept art of a gravity beast. 100%, because he definitely needs a new avatar. I can see that right here. 100% red pill a couple of years ago. Can't shake the feeling of what the point of having a relationship, marriage with a woman. How do I avoid being subconsciously nihilistic in this way? Don't want to be a loser, MGTOW. Okay, well, here's the thing. You don't have to be a loser, MGTOW. You can still be. I hope you can be a winner, MGTOW. I really do. I just want to see show me the receipts. Show me what it is that you're doing. So what's the point of having a relationship? Well, You can have a relationship. The point is this, is that on some level of consciousness, to some degree, you are going to want to get with a woman. That's simply just the way that we work. You can have lots of women or you can get with one woman, but you want to get with a woman. When you talk about, oh, the juice isn't worth the squeeze, well, you still want the juice. That's evolutionary. That's biological. That's up here and that's down here. So how are you going to use this information to affect what it is that you want to do? How do you empower yourself? How do you give yourself power? How do you make decisions for yourself? It's really kind of up to you. Like people say, well, I don't want to get married. Then don't. It doesn't mean that you have to, get married and have these, have this nuclear family kind of thing. Everybody's shitting on the nuclear family these days. It's a result of a systematic destruction, I think, of the family and of marriage, but it was real easy to do, very easy to do. All you got to do is put women in the workforce. All you got to do is empower, all you got to do is destroy conventional understanding of gender. All you have to do is like reinforce a blank slate and equalism and egalitarianism. So I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I'll let you guys sort that one out for yourself, but I think there's still an evolved natural desire that we want to be with one. Like, why do men get jealous? Why is paternity still a thing? Why do guys have, what was it? There was a guy that somebody sent me this story. There was a kid, 23 years old, blew off his arm with a homemade bomb. And of course the story was this, and this is why I think they're floating out ideas like Elliot Rodgers or something so that they can have this worldwide women's march. But what this kid did was, I guess he was building a bomb and he was going to use the bomb to kill hot cheerleaders. That's what the police said. He said, kill hot cheerleaders. Sounds like an insult to me. Let's all put on pink hats and rage. I don't think it's going to fly. I don't think that's the casus belli just yet, but that's the thing is here's you got a guy who maybe the guy's red pill. That's the way he chooses to use his tools. Don't use your tools for your own destruction. Don't blow your fucking arm off or your dick off or whatever else it is. Don't do that. There, I said it. Don't be violent. Use it to your advantage. You don't have to have a traditional relationship to reproduce. Clearly, But if that's what you want, if you want that relationship, then you've got to figure things out for yourself and what it is that you want to do and how are you going to use those tools for your benefit. Gravity Beast. And you hereby have the coolest name in the chat right now. And I am getting up on 2 hours and okay, we're going to do the lightning round here. I'm going to go as quick as I can. Oh, thank you. Hola. You have a cool name too. Ola is one of my favorite guitar players, by the way. You'll know who I'm talking about. So that's Gravity Beast. Fido the Prince. Woof. Rollo, can you talk about the pair bonding that occurs when you sleep with a girl and who has a girl that has a low notch count? This as compared to the girl who has slept with a lot of. Okay. Fido, I did a full video on that. It was what was that, like 3 months ago almost? It was, does a woman's notch count really matter? So I'll just give you I'll give you the lightning round answer here. This is me, okay? Statistically, women who have higher notch counts have a more difficult time pair bonding with a man later in life. That's just the way that women are made, because women's mating strategy is different than men. Women are looking for quality. Men are looking for quantity. Men have the ability to separate the sex act from their emotional investment. Women have a tougher time with that. Like psychologically, when you think about women's mating strategy and the hypergamous filter and trying to find a guy who's like sending honest signals, and women have, I think, women have far more, women regret the sex that they did have, and men regret the sex that they didn't get, or they didn't get to, they thought they could get. I know that there's a statistical research for that as well. Why would that even be a difference? Oh, we're all the same. It should be the same. No, it's not. Women regret the sex that they had. Men regret the sex they didn't get, or they could have had, but they didn't get to. Men are interested in things. Women are interested in people. Sound like they're invested in the personal contact and the communication and all that good stuff that I keep talking about? Yes, that is. Well, what's the result of that? How does that affect their mating strategy? Well, it makes them more invested. It makes them emotionally invested in that connection. And it just as we train our men to be more feminine, we try to train our women to be more masculine. And so you get these things like, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. How come I'm a slut for having 10 notch body count and guys are heroes for having that? Because you're a woman, because you were born a human female on planet Earth. That's why. And there's differences. You are not the same. I know that the society has tried to convince you that you can do anything a man can do, which up to and including being as promiscuous as a man would like to be. Not that most men aren't. That's the apex fallacy in terms of sexual, mating strategy. Women think that guy, like every dude out there, has like 100-notch count. Because one guy she ended up sleeping, the guy that she wanted to have sex with, the guy that was the alpha apex jerk, he had 100. So everybody has 100. I work for a very rich man and he got a trophy wife. So every guy wants a trophy wife. It's the apex fallacy. But the thing is that we teach our girls that they can live the same life as boys because of the blank slate and equalism. And as a result of that, we say, well, we think that this horrible, we did a show on this 2 weeks ago on Rule Zero about double standards. We think that there's this horrible double standard. My dog has just woke up. What do you want? You want to come over here? Come over here. I have Bambi and I have Ned in the house today, and Bambi's standing up right now. So you have the situation where it's like you've got women and men's mating strategies are different, and women think that it's totally unfair, and it's this horrible, this horrible injustice that what's good for the goose is not necessarily good for the gander. Now you're going to come over here. And it doesn't work out that way. So we masculinize women and we feminize guys. And as a result of that, one of the consequences and the liabilities of that is that women think they should be able to dissociate themselves from the sex act and just like, oh, well, I'm just having random casual sex and it's fun. Guys can. Statistically proven, research proven. There's your research, peer research stuff. Proven that guys can still, emotionally invest and have 100 girls in their Rolodex, right? But women don't do that because we're different psychologically, emotionally, physically, you name it, we're different. That's why that shit about, good for the goose and good for the gander, blank slate equalism. That's why all that's crap. And that it's the worst thing in the world for women because they think they should be able to do what men do. And they get horribly upset because they can't. And so you got these, so you get women who are happy to have like, I'm proud of my abortion. I'm proud of my 100 I banged I see these articles sometimes like I banged 45 guys in 30 days. Oh boy. And that means she's like double shifting at some point. And she's proud of doing that. Well, the thing is like, then she gets upset. Like, well, how come guys don't want me? Well, you guys want it. You don't know if you want a slut or you want a prude. You don't know if you want a slut or you want a mother for your children. It's like, no, men have a natural revulsion to that. It's part of our innate biological evolved firmware. We are revolted by women who are not good options for us paternally. It's not that I don't care. Go bang whoever you want to, but don't expect me to marry you and have kids because I can't be sure. Like my hindbrain, my monkey lizard brain can't be sure that any kid that come out of you is actually my kid. Sorry, that's part of my evolved revulsion response. Oh, you're slut shaming. I'm not slut shaming. I'm just not going to deal with it. Well, why don't men want to get with single mothers? Because of the same thing. You've already bred with somebody. That's not my kid. Why do I want to be parentally invested in that when I could be using my time and my resource and my energy and everything else in a woman who's going to bear the child that's mine, that's going to put my genes into the next generation? Well, that's stupid, man. Real men step up. No, they don't. Real men listen to their biology. Real men, you want to know why that I don't have to, like, for all the times that Rich Cooper and myself and Ryan and everybody, we go say, avoid single mothers, whatever. I don't have to do that show because guys naturally avoid single mothers. They want to, or they should, or they feel weird about it. The only reason that that's in any way extraordinary for a guy to step in and I'm not the step down. I'm going to step up. I'm the guy that stepped up. Right? I'm a real dad. The only reason that that's extraordinary is because it goes against 100,000 years of evolution. That's why. It's love conquers all. No, well, in this case, your need conquers your evolved, or I should say your, social conditioning conquers your evolutionary imperatives as a guy. So most guys don't need to be told to avoid single mothers. They're just like, It's the guys who do that you go, oh, that guy's desperate. That guy needs you. Okay, well, good for you. The kids have a father. But yet in what is it? Single fathers or boyfriends that are live-in boyfriends are 8 times as likely to abuse the biological kids than the actual biological father. That's a stat we don't want to talk about. So the thing is, as far as a pair bonding is concerned, is you get women who get into that situation and they think that being promiscuous is a way to fempowerment. And then they find that they statistically cannot bond, or they have a higher incidence of divorce. Statistically, it is true. It is untrue for women, or it's untrue for men. Men want unlimited access to unlimited sexuality, and we can dissociate ourselves from the emotional investment that sex is or means for women. And so what we say societally is, that's just guys being dogs. Guys are just pigs. They just want to have sex with anything. That's why pornography, porno, no fat, blah. Well, that's how you're built. I'm not saying you embrace that. I'm saying you control that. We always have. Control that. Always have sexual, always have control. Always have control. But that's still the operative state that you're in. Santiago says, Santiago Amarilla. Thank you for writing the rational mail, Rollo. It helped me a lot. You're welcome. Any advice for a 20-year-old in starting to spin plates or learning a game nowadays? Start doing it. Give yourself permission to do it. Here's your advice. Go read the 6 essays, if you haven't already, on plate theory. And remember that spinning plates is not necessarily, unlimited access to unlimited sexuality. Okay. I don't think I say this enough. You don't have to be banging every one of your plates. They have to have the potential, but you don't have to have, like, if a woman is in your roster, let's say you've got 5 girls, right? 5 girls on your roster. Doesn't mean you have to have sex with all 5 of them. You can have sex with 3 of them, and 2 of them, you're kind of like, okay. And what happens then is, if you got 3 that you're having sex with, and you got 2 that you want to get in there and working, we're doing whatever, I'm going to try to add her to the roster or whatever. You have a freedom that you didn't have before. And so if you will do things. Remember, we were talking about how manifesting behaviors is a thing that women pick up on. When I talk about like alpha tells or beta tells, this is what I'm talking about. When you have that attitude, when you're like, it's easier to have the I don't give a fuck attitude when you really don't give a fuck. Remember, we talked about confidence and how confidence is derived from options. If you have 3 other options and 2 of them you're kind of working on, though, having those 3 options is like having 3 extra jobs and you're interviewing for another one. Well, you can be a whole lot more bold and ask for a whole lot more and be more experiment, and you can learn a whole lot more because you have those options. You're certainly going to be more confident, even if you don't like consciously do it. You're going to or think it. You're still going to be, it's going to manifest in your behaviors because you got 3 girls that are, it doesn't work out with them. I got my next best one right here. That does something to a guy. Women pick up on that. The end. What else? That was Santiago. So anyways, read those essays, the plate theory essays. And remember that you're not doing that to be a prick. You're doing that for your own education. If you're in your 20s, then good for you. Don't even consider monogamy until you get to be about 29 or 30. And when you do, realize that women in their epiphany phase are motivated. They're motivated buyers, and you need to be careful. Captain Mike gives me 20 British pounds. Thank you, sir. Eleanor Rigby. You just want to hear me sing the song, right? $5. Thank you. Where am I now? All right. Like I said, I'm going to blast through these things. Guys, thank you so much for all of these. What did I not get to this one? Oh, Tony DeLama, I got to yours, right? Yeah. Okay. I got to you. I'm probably like horribly behind here. Sorry, guys. 19, looking for red pill knowledge. How can one inspire masculinity through male modeling in the marketplace? Through male modeling. Are you a male model? I don't think you're a male model, dude. I've seen you on here before. How can one inspire positive masculinity through male modeling? Okay, so modeling, I would say modeling positive masculinity. Well, that's up to you, man. That's really kind of up to you. I don't know. First of all, I don't know you personally. I don't know if this is even a serious question, but what I would hear. Okay, so here's my advice is this: demonstrate, do not explicate. Don't be overt about things. You don't have to be necessarily covert, but you have to speak without speaking. There's a really great chapter, and one I hardly ever talk about, actually, that's in the first book. It's called Dijo sin hablando, which is Spanish for speak without speaking. That's how you do it. Read that. First of all, read that one. But it's a concept where you're doing something that says something. You're communicating things through your behavior. You're doing. I used it as a game term at the time, but it's really kind of a little bit deeper than that. I think you need to be able to speak your message without actually having to speak it. Remember what they say about like how you don't tell children how to be, you exemplify it, or you demonstrate how they ought to be. You are a role model. That's what you need to be. You need to be that guy. Demonstrate it through your actions, my friend. Let's see. Would you recommend, sorry, this is from Block 23. Would you recommend men wait until their SMV begins to peak before starting monogamous relationships? What age would you recommend? Okay. The reason why I even the reason why I identified men's peak sexual market value at like 36, 37 is because that's usually the time at which men have that's when guys are usually hitting their stride. It's no secret that men take a lot longer to mature than women do. Women mature really fast. And I mean that physically and mentally. But men mature slower, but they mature further than women. Remember we were talking about, women are like the smartest teenagers in the house. I really wish I knew the guy's name, but there's a guy who is, I don't know if it's a theory or if it's research or whatever, but he said that there's like different levels of emotion or emotional maturity. And that women only reach there's 6 levels, and women only really reach level 4 and maybe level 5, but they never get to 6. Men are the only ones who can get to a maturity level of 6, and it takes them a long time to get. Obviously, like you get older and wiser, I guess maybe that's part of it. But there is like some sort of psychological limitations that women have that men do not have. And he'll say, "Oh, that's horrible. We're all the same." No, it's the same thing. Men and women are different. I don't know. I don't necessarily. First of all, I'm hands off here. I don't necessarily say I'm believing it. I don't know enough about it to really form an opinion of it. Just throwing it out there. That's something that I have read in the past. I don't know who the guy is that suggested that there is emotional levels of maturity. However, I think that when guys reach their peak sexual market value, they are in their peak of sexual selectivity. So when I had that guy, was it the guy who's who was it? This dude right here. Tony. When Tony the Llama says he was 43 years old and he's single and he wants to get into a relationship. Well, you're in a better position where you are right now. I'm not saying the time, time's up, right? But you're in a better position right now to be more sexually selective because you're wiser and you're not as incentivized to get married as you were before. So when guys are young and idealistic, that's when they go, I want to marry you, baby. I'm going to kill myself unless we get married and have kids. And they're like 18 years old. I'll do anything. I'll move to a different state and take a different major in a different school and get a different job and do anything for you. When that guy gets to be about 36 and he's hitting his stride and women are more interested in him now than they've ever been, it pays off to be mature, and it also pays off to understand the game that you're in. So that's why I say when you get to be 36, you need to be careful of women because you are a hot commodity at that time. But the reason you are is because you're also at the peak of sexual selectivity. So you have, like, when women are at their peak of sexual selectivity, they're usually about 23 years old because they're at their peak hotness. 21 forever, baby. That's when women have the most agency. When men have the most agency is when they have maximized their potential and they get to a point where they're still in very good shape. And a man can still be a hot guy, a hot dude army, right? He can still be a hot guy in his mid 30s. You say, well, I know guys that are 23 and they're hotter than you. Well, yeah, you do. But if you're maximizing your potential, guess what? Not only are you reasonably attractive, good looking, you also should have your career together, have your life together, have power and frame over things, and become you at no other time in a man's life will you have more, will you have the potential to have more of the things that make you attractive in the short term and the long term to women than right at that point, like 36, 37 years old, if you're doing what you ought to be doing, if you're maximizing the potential. There's no worse thing than not living up to crazy good potential. I'm sure you've heard that before. So that's why I say don't get into a monogamous relationship until you're 30, and certainly don't even consider marriage until you're at least hitting your stride and you get in. It's on your choice and an educated choice. And if you want to get married, if you want to at all, and you can decide at that point. But I think what's important is guys need to realize that when they get to that point, that's when they're going to be at their peak of sexual selectivity. Mohammed, thank you, my friend, for that €2 donation. And geez, man, you guys are killing me with these today. Edmund Dodo says R&B music when I was in my teens were exactly that for me, was always alpha, seeming male, professing his undying love via song to women is programming. Yep, you are right. Mario Moreno says, we can't save the world. No, you can't. We can't save the world. Save yourself. Now optimize your life to how you want it. The world is what it is. Men create with what they're given with. Remember this. I think what's really important, especially going forward for wherever we are right now, men must become, women just are. You guys are asking, the last question, the guy was saying, well, why do you say it's 36 or 37? Or why do you say wait until you're 30 before you get monogamous? Well, because you need to become. That's why I peg that time as the peak sexual market value for men. You must become. And at no other time in your life, probably, maybe it happens later, maybe it happens sooner. But on average, it's probably going to be right around there. That's when you become. And when you become attractive. Eleanor Rigby says, $10. Thank you, honey. I want to add to your phrase about men loving idealistically and women loving opportunistically. Well, I'm glad, because I'm actually going to do a show about that coming up very soon. I've done one before in the past, but I don't think I really did it justice. Women do have idealistic love only towards their children and not their parents. Yes, that's Eleanor, in my second book, I have a concept in there called hierarchies of love. And it is, I think, because we've feminized men, we've put them in the position of being like women and looking up to women in the same way that women would look up to men in a natural order of things. So you've got these emotional, these really emo men who are going, well, how come women can't solve my problems for me? And then the women hate them because they're acting like women and not like men. Ugh. Vincent McLeod, what advice do you have for raising a young girl in today's age? I'm the older brother of 2 teenage sisters, of which all our 3 fathers left. That's a problem right there. I'm doing my best, but I can sense the future tattoos and OnlyFans accounts. Vince, I'm getting low on time here, but I'm going to give you one piece of advice here. It sounds like you have 2 teenage sisters, all of which all of our 3 fathers left. I think the problem is not so much with the fathers as it is with the mother. Call me crazy, but so here's my best advice to you: be that dude, be the guy, if this is where you're at and you said you're teenage. I don't know how old you are, Vince. Be the masculine guy, be the masculine ideal that they need to see. That's the best thing I can give you. I don't know enough about your situation, but all I can say is exemplify a positive, conventionally masculine ideal for them. And sometimes that means being a prick, and sometimes that means being, compassionate. But you've got to emulate that for them. If you want to see, if you have an investment into your teenage sisters, you need to be dad now. I hate to say that. You guys have 3 different dads. Who knows? But you need to live that out, and they need to see that. That would be my best advice to you. Juan Sebastian, under the sea. How do you meet new women starting from 0? Well, you go where the women are. Wow, I know, it's revolutionary. Guys will say, well, where do I go to meet this girl? Well, you fish where the fish are, right? Wouldn't you do that? You don't fish in a pond where there's no fish. You go fish in the lake. You go fish in the stream. You go fish in the ocean. Fish where the fish are. It's not really hard to figure that one out. And you know where they are. And you know what? I know you only, Juan, because you got a guitar and because you like Pantera, I can see that you are very confused. So I'm going to give you a little bit better advice than just like your $1.99 contribution here. So what you do is this. I want you to go and read. There's a great essay I wrote called "Always Default to Game," and I think that what guys do is they get hung up on. Well, I don't know where to meet women. Women are everywhere, man. You walk outside your door and there's women. They might not be the women that you want to get with. Like I could tell you this: go online, and go do Tinder, and go do Match.com or whatever else. I could tell you that. You know that. But if you want to meet women in real time, you got to go where the women are first. And then second of all, whatever you're doing socially, wherever you're going to a party, you're going to play a gig, you're going to go, to a concert or something like that, always default to game. There's never a better, I think, 48 Laws of Power, always enter into action with boldness. I'm telling you, here's a red pill maxim: always default to game. Always have it on, always be. And even if you fall flat on your face, you're learning something. At least you're applying yourself. So apply game wherever you're at. Love, like, desire. Thank you for those 10. I'm sorry. Here's what he says. Thank you for all of your help. You explained what happened to my failed marriage, and that in turn saved me. Love you, man. Love you too. Love you, man. Love you too. No homo. John Doe. 5 British pounds. So I have to read this in a British accent. Successful parents, traditional, want me to marry. How does the future look with this feminism? Oh, dear me. Planning to do at 33 or 35. Any suggestions? Stick to the plan. That's my suggestion, John Doe. Stick to your plan. Don't get emotionally hung. You're 28, man. Good. If don't get married, but if you're going to consider monogamy, then wait till you're 35, 36. Good for you. You're following the plan. You don't need help from me. Warrior Race. Damn. Thanks, man. $50. Can females recover from emotional trauma like alpha widows? Yeah, but do you want to be the guy to do it? Daddy issues and war brides. Does their solipsistic nature help them from that? Will they ever form healthy relationships and be able to pair bond, or are they just a lost cause? I think it depends on the severity of it. I think it just depends on can you recover from emotional trauma? They can, but most of them don't want to, because they get more positive feels and more positive dopamine hits from being the victim. And I'll tell you, the other thing is, a lot of guys, particularly feminized guys, buy into this. So they'll get the girl who's damaged, and they'll say, well, she's damaged. She got with those guys who are assholes, and they ruined her for me. But because we're going to church and we're going to counseling, we're working it out, and she's having a better go at it because of me, because I'm, and if it wasn't these horrible pickup artists, all these girls would still be just fine. There'd be nothing wrong with them. They wouldn't choose them willingly. They were young and naive. That was part of their journey of self-discovery. And you get these guys who buy into that, and they'll feed that. They'll feed the fear. They'll feed the victimhood, because women like that. They like the indignation that comes with that. I can turn this guy down for sex because, I'm sorry, I can't stop thinking about that. It takes a really mature woman to sort of turn that off. That's why I say, do you want to be the guy that does that? Or wouldn't simply be like, oh, okay, well, you're fucked up. Okay, have a good life. And then go find somebody who's not fucked up. That's probably a better idea. I don't say they're a lost cause. I'm just saying that it just depends on the chick. Most of them don't want to get better. Big Dog Jackson says, how can a single father of two apply the red pill? I feel like I'm constantly being in feminine energy. Big Dog, I'm going to refer you to book 3. I wrote at least 2/3 of that book answers the questions of what you're asking right now. In fact, at least the third of that book is directly about being a red pill parent. And if you go buy that and read that, good, please do. In fact, everybody go buy my books right here, right, wherever it is. But if you want to read it now, you can go on. I have a series called The Red Pill Parent. In fact, there's a category on the sidebar of The Rational Male called Red Pill Parent. Go read that. Let's see. Alpha Dom says, I agree with most of what you say, but I don't get why you say the relationship is over when a girlfriend hangs out with friends, especially when I do the same. I didn't say that it was over. I said it comes down to girls can go hang out with their friends. It's another thing to say, oh, we're going to go do a weekend in Vegas. That's a thing. When it ceases to be about friends and it becomes about mate guarding, that's when there's a problem. Yeah, my wife has friends. I mean, who cares, right? That's cool. It's not like she's going, oh, well, I want to go spend a week with my friends in, the Vegas clubs or something, or I want to go and have a girls' night out every night of the week. My wife wanted to go have a girls' night out. I'd be like, sure, go right ahead. But if it's like a constant thing, or she starts talking about the guys that are there, and she's like, oh, my girlfriend's so crazy. She did, sake bombs, and oh man, I couldn't believe it. And then you might have a problem. So again, context. Thomas Mayuner says, what is your opinion on PUA advocating techniques that boil down to being an entertainer when dating Western and more specifically masculine women? Okay, Thomas, again, I'm going to refer you to a video I did not too long ago, actually probably about 4 episodes ago, maybe 5 episodes ago, called You Will Always Entertain Women. Go watch that. There's 2 hours of an answer for you right there. Eleanor, again, Eleanor loves me. A suggestion for Runt on how to learn how to have the jerk attitude. Watch the original Nutty Professor starring Jerry Lewis, and watch his transformation from professor to buddy love. Okay. Let's see. Cool video. Want to be friends? Would you recommend, this is Get Blocked. Would you recommend men wait until their SMV begins to peak before they start a monogamous relationship? At what age would you recommend? I already answered that. Ola, I already talked to you. Captain Mike, thank you for those 20 pounds. AF16, just finished an MBA, Master of Business. And at a point deciding which career, I have a strong desire to work for Sony. Is having this Sony desire considered one-itis-ish? No, it's not. If that's what you want to do, that's the direction you want to go, please do. I remember, if you want to get an idea what I talk about when I talk about one-itis, I have a straight up video called The Soulmate Myth. And then I've also got several other essays about the fallacy of the one, there is no one. And then I also have The Soulmate Myth. Okay, I already answered that one. Are there any 80s metal songs with red pill lyrics? Well, I mean, you can look at like Slayer, and you can look at I think some of like the more heavier stuff had some red pill. So I don't know. It depends on what you mean by red pill. Like I think most love songs are really sappy and written from a blue pill romantic ideal perspective, whether that's 80s metal or anything else for that matter. But when you get into bands that don't really sing about those kinds of topics, I can't really say they're red pill or they're not. They're just not singing about those topics. So YOLO says, hi, Godfather. Thanks for explaining how the feminine imperative uses the romantic ideal and chivalry to control men. What is your definition of love? Oh my goodness. The best thing, you know what, YOLO, I'm sorry. I'm going to punt on that one because I'm going to do a show on Wednesday about that. Vince C says, the great show. Thank you. Timius Maximus says, my Yamaha found out about the Ibanez and will go back to tune. Should I spin more basses? Yes, you should. Actually, you need to just get roto wound strings and you won't have that problem. Use the right bait. Yes, that's how you get. How do I get chicks? Use the right bait. Eleanor Rigby, I already talked to you. Thank you. Drape Tillman gives me $5. Thank you. Okay, we're done. No more. Thank you. We're all good. I should go put on the music now, right? All right. We are at 2.5 hours. I knew we would go over and I knew we would go a long time. Philip says, Rollo, in Star Wars, does Alpha Luke bang Leia and have
you considered writing a book on red pill marriage? I know you say no prescriptions, but who else is qualified, doctor?
Well, okay. Here's the thing, dude. I don't think that's a serious question, to be honest with you. Drape Tillman, I got to you. Who else? Okay. That's the way you wanted me to read that, right? Okay. There you go. All right, gentlemen and lady. I don't know if Eleanor Rigby is a lady. Thank you for watching today. I think on Wednesday I'm going to do an expanded version of concepts of love. I talked about this before. I think I did the show probably about 6 months ago about concepts of love and the differences between men and women. I also need to get into the topic of instinct, emotion, and reason. I've talked about not appealing to women's reason before in the past, but I've never really gotten into the full explanation of what instinct, emotion, and reason is and how it works in an intersexual dynamics perspective. So I think I'm probably going to do something about that pretty soon. I am wondering if I should go and get into some of the topics that are in book 4. And a lot of that has to do with religion. And I know that there's a red pill. I've done red pill and religion in the past, and I'm probably going to update that and maybe do that again. I'm not really 100% sure how I'm going to go about that. I might have to make that just sort of like a separate show, or at least like a different section of this channel. Well, I'm not going to make a new channel. So I'm considering, those are some topics that I'm considering for next week, as well as into the next coming weeks. If that's something you want me to talk about, I'll be happy to listen to you, and you tell me what you guys would like me to cover. But those are things that I kind of want to hit on. So, I know, just released the book. I really wish that things were a little bit different right now. Once we got into the lockdown, that sort of put me I think I was ready to publish right before the lockdown, and then the shit started hitting the fan. And I wanted to make sure that first of all, the foreword, this is the first time I'm going to write the foreword. And I wanted it to be relevant. And then what happened was, because of the lockdown, it put me into okay, I need to edit this out. I need to do this. I need to do that. And so a lot of guys will complain about the first, well, actually all 3 of the books, but certainly the first book about you need to watch for grammar and all that. And I'm going back. I actually have a professional editor that's working on the first book right now as we speak, so that I can get to that as soon as I'm done with book 4. But what that does to me is it makes me paranoid. And I'm trying to make this book the most bulletproof book I've ever done. So that's why things are kind of taking a little bit longer than I expected. But I would rather have it out later and have it perfect than just shove it out there and put it in your hands. Because this is not an ebook. This is not a 97-page e-pamphlet that has an offer of a program or some, it's not going to have some contrived bullshit stock, royalty-free stock image cover for it with some shitty fonts on it. And, I'm an author, okay? I'm not a hustler. I'm not I'm not going to go out there and sell you on a program where I'll go and do talks and stuff like that. But I'm an author first before anything else. And so this is my craft and this is my art. I won't call it a product. This is my craft and this is my art. So there you go. You want me to talk about mystery method? I could talk about mystery method if you'd like. Okay, so that's it for today, guys. I will see you guys on Wednesday. Oh, by the way, special announcement. I announced this yesterday. I'll talk about it again really quick here. On Friday, I got invited to go talk with Hotep Jesus. Again, he's been on this show like last year, about a year ago, actually. A year ago, I had him on my show. I think it was in June or July, actually. It would have been almost exactly a year ago. I had Hotep Jesus on. I talked to him. We talked for a little bit. He's been on Rule Zero a couple times. He and I have been following each other for a long time, and I consider him a friend. So I'm going to go on his show for the first time because he is inviting me on. And so I don't know what we're going to talk about, but probably mostly intersexual dynamics, I would expect. So that will be on Friday. I don't know if it's a live stream or if it's recorded. I think it's going to be live though, because that's mostly what he does when he goes on with his Hotep show with Uncle Hotep and himself. So that might be, but that will be on Friday, and that will be at 7 p.m. Eastern time. So that would be 4 p.m. Pacific if you're on the same coast as I am. So put that in your alerts or put that in your hat and keep it there. And then Wednesday, I will be back, same time, 1 p.m. And Rule Zero always on Saturdays. So I will talk to you guys later. Yes, we are still doing Rule Zero live in Las Vegas, which will be October 2nd through the 4th. We'll be making a big announcement very soon, probably towards the end of this week about that. We have confirmed 9 speakers, including myself. So that's coming up. You'll be able to, we're going to make tickets available again. It's going to be a bigger venue. And that's your teaser for now. So thanks, guys. And I will see you guys on Wednesday. Peace.